Hey guys, it's Friday. My phone alarm just went off. It said it's time for Gate World Live with Brian and Shane. That's good timing. I'm glad that everybody's here with us. Let's bring in our very special guests. I've been excited to talk with these gentlemen for I was going to say several months, but you guys had me on your show a few years ago, and
We
I
did.
I couldn't reciprocate at the time because I didn't have a show. But now we're streaming here talking about Stargate with these guys in the chat, and we've got the Popcast Bros.
Well,
Welcome.
because you brought it
Woo.
up, I remember you came on one of our channels that like no subscribers whatsoever at the time. Like, yeah, I told you we were the Popcast brothers, but at the time you just sort of believed us and just jumped in, and it was such a huge help. I remember that like Darren's not gonna come on this channel and has like at the time it had like no subscribers, but no,
Well,
you
that's
just
not
popped
true.
in. No, it
No,
wasn't the
no,
main.
he came later.
Oh, he did? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Darren, listen, Darren's special. Let me
You
tell you,
guys, I
really glad you guys are
remember
out there.
you were already doing Stargate stuff that was blowing up. I don't know if you had done your biggest video yet, which a lot of people in the chat have probably seen, which is your definitive history of the Stargate franchise, which I
Mm.
just double checked is up over 3 million views now on YouTube. I think it's probably the #1 Stargate video on YouTube.
Woo.
Congratulations. I don't know if that one had
Wow.
been done already at that point when I was on the show, but uh, uh, your reputation precedes you. You guys do
Oh,
excellent work.
thank you, Darren.
Yeah,
That's so kind
you know
coming
what's
from you.
funny? You know what's funny, Darren, is so I'm gonna tell a story now since we're doing it.
All right.
So the Stargate Definitive History was our very first definitive history. And if you guys are fans of our channel, if you've seen it, we've been doing that now for several years, but that was the very first video we ever did. And that video does not happen without Darren from Gate World.
No,
Because
that-
at the time, and actually this is how we met Darren, is because I'm sitting there researching this video and I'm looking around, I'm like, I got to tell you, this Gate World website keeps coming up over and over and over again when I'm looking for stuff. And I finally reached out to Darren and said, "Hey, I just want to thank you because, and honestly, that history doesn't take place without all of the research and interviews that Darren did over the years to keep Listen, Darren was keeping Stargate alive before it was popular to do so, and so we bow down to you, sir. You are the man, and we are so
Yeah.
happy to
Truth.
be hanging out with you."
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Darren and David as well. David Reed is responsible for
Ah.
the lion's share of interviews in the archive on Gate World. And it's kind of a Gate World is its own story in the fact that it's still going after 26, going on 27 years. But
I
this is
remember
what I
going to
love
Gate
is that it's a
World.
resource that's online, right? We lived through those days. We were interviewing cast and crew while they were shooting. And just the fact that guys like you doing projects like what you're doing are making use of that resource years and years later, it warms my heart.
Darren, I remember watching the finale of Atlantis and then going to Gate World to find out more information on if and when it was going to return. I remember doing that,
Yeah.
which is wild.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, you and Dial the Gate, David. You guys have been doing some great stuff. I love that they I think the icing on the cake for everything that's been happening with Stargate was the fact that they brought you guys in to make the announcement for the new series. And I'm like, I don't think there's ever been a more appropriate way to introduce a new series by going through the fans who keeping it alive all this time. And so we were just so excited. It was fantastic.
That was an incredible gift for sure. From Martin Garrow, Brad Wright, Joseph Malazzi reached out and said, it's time. And we were
Class
there.
act,
It was
man.
amazing that they decided to go to the fans. And we've had 2 more live streams with Martin since then, keeping us up on the new show. It's incredible. And Amazon seems to be perfectly happy with it. They're working in the background. They're, participating in sort of organizing stuff and coordinating with Martin. And they're just letting us do our thing. They're letting Martin sort of call the shots. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
It's so fantastic. We get this like wonderful, and I'm going to talk over my brother here. He usually runs the show, so now I get to say some things. But he's going to have a lot to say when it comes to the TV show stuff. So, but I wanted to say from the beginning when we when we started doing this, and we met you, and we kind of started doing this. And then, if you guys remember, we had all of the Twitter storms, right? The Stargate Twitter storms. We were trying to get interest in Stargate, and so somebody in there mentioned the Save the Gate shirt. They still have their Save the Gate shirt in the chat. So really cool that you guys still have that. And of course, that was a fan petition that we had created because we were so excited about bringing Stargate back, and people were responding to our stuff, and that it's just really cool that we've come to this point. It's been such a long road, and Darren, I bet nobody is probably more excited to see the fruition of a new series than you are after everything that you've been through.
That's true for sure. Somebody mentioned, I think last week when we were doing our live stream, that I, at one point a year or two ago, had started to make noise. Probably when I was talking to Dave on Dial the Gate, that I was feeling burned out. I was feeling like the rag had just been squeezed and there was nothing left. And Amazon had bought the franchise 3 years earlier, and we still hadn't heard anything, right? They had announced new projects for virtually every MGM, at least high profile MGM IP, except Stargate. And I was ready to step back and not do, at least not as much, right? I'm not taking Gate World offline, but not as much. And then finally the dam broke, and
the timing was really bad for Stargate.
Such a ride,
because the writers' strike and the actors' strike, that all happened when they were finally ramping up to actually give us news, and they were talking to the guys from The Expanse and all that. But it seemed like it was a bunch of bad luck. But that bad luck turned into us getting Martin Giro and Joe Velazzi and like Brad Wright, and like I think that had the writers' strike not happened, there's a good chance that we would have had the Penguin and Parker guys, the guys from The Expanse, doing the show instead of Martin Giro. So it ended up being really good, I think, for the franchise.
Yeah, and that's a show I would have watched. Shane.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
We ended up having a really weird, interesting situation. So the whole time this is going on, and we were, and you're right, for a long time, we were really focused on doing a lot of Stargate videos. We did, we kind of followed it, followed the trend of what was going on and explained, well, this is the next thing. So we kind of stayed up with the news. And at one point we had actually, after MGM was bought by Amazon, we started talking with an insider, somebody who had some information. And we were doing a little bit of talking with Joe, a little bit of talking with Brad, and just kind of trying to stay in touch with those guys. But it wasn't until the strike and just before that happened, we found out some really interesting information that they hadn't actually, they weren't even considering Brad's script. And so we had actually reached out to Joe, reached out to Brad and said, hey, just a heads up, we're hearing stuff from the inside that they aren't even considering the script that you had put in, and maybe you want to make a phone call. And so we just are so happy that it all came together, that Brad is able to be with Martin on this, and that Martin is using Brad as a sounding board and taking notes. And because to us, it was always important that Brad was involved in some way. And we're just so grateful that's happened.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think our petition has like 70,000 signatures for Make New Stargate with Brad Wright. That's the title of the petition.
With Brad Wright. That's right.
It was with Brad Wright. So it's sort of won.
Yeah, I was on the Brad Wright bandwagon as well, and it was heartbreaking to hear that the sale of MGM to Amazon ended up being that kind of breaking point where he had a project he was ready to go out pitching. He said when COVID hit, that when Amazon picked it up, they looked at that script and decided they didn't want to do it. But Brian, you're right. The sort of the circumstances of the writer's strike and everything that's happened between now and then, right over the last 5-6 years, it's kind of like all those things had to happen in a certain order. The way that Martin has told the story to us, it's he was locked up in a deal with another studio. That deal expired. He then had the opportunity to look around and was in talks with Amazon MGM, and they were like, hey, we heard you used to work on Stargate. Would you be interested in taking a swipe at this one? And he said, would I? I happen to already have a pitch that he had developed like 5 years earlier.
So that was divine intervention. The ancients came down and made this all work out for us.
So question for you, Darren, maybe so MGM, a lot of the people who came over from MGM, they stayed on board with Amazon. So I wonder if they were kind of the ones who said, "Hey, Martin Garo, he's kind of, up and coming. He would be great for this program." I wonder if they pitched it over to the other side, or what, or did Martin share with you guys anything about how it came to him in that way?
Just a little bit in terms of, I mean, obviously these guys all have agents and they're talking with the studios, and it's well known, of course, that Amazon had just bought MGM and had this IP and hadn't announced anything publicly that they were doing with it yet. In terms of who was in MGM that came over and is still there, some of the executives have turned over, right? That's been in the news. Some of the TV and film executives have turned over in the last few years. I think Chris Ottinger, who was the head of MGM Television, recently departed the company. So it's kind of an open box. It's kind of a mystery as to who behind the scenes was pulling on the right thread at the right time to say, oh, Martin Garo, he's got Stargate cred. Let's have this conversation. Or if it was kind of his agent, Martin's agent doing his business and getting in front of the right people. It happened in just the right time. I mean, again, Martin was not available for those years and years that you and I were petitioning and participating in Joe Malazzi's tweet storms. All the pieces had to line up just right for us to get this iteration of Stargate, and I think
COVID, actor strike,
couldn't be a better pick.
Yeah, all the different strikes that all had to happen. Yeah.
Okay, well, guys, thanks again for joining us in the chat. But post questions for the Popcast bros if you've got them as we go through this. This is what happens when I bring some podcast hosts on the show. Is now you take over and start talking about everything that I want to talk about already. Let's pause and back up a hot second, because before we talk about the new Stargate, what you guys hope it'll be, what you're maybe worried it'll be, and then also we want to kind of frame this in terms of Stargate's place on the science fiction landscape, right? As other franchises have, I mean, since the dawn of the streaming era, it feels like a whole generation of science fiction has kind of come and gone. Star Wars came roaring back and is sort of arguably on its way back down. Star Trek as well. Right. We'll get to that, but I want to start with your Stargate fandom. How did you guys discover the show? What does the show mean to you? How did it get its hooks in you?
Brian, you go first.
Sure. Okay, so I started watching Stargate in the late 90s. So after I saw the movie with my dad at a movie theater, I was like hooked. I was like, this is the coolest universe ever. I have the original poster right here. I don't know, it's too far away for you to see it, but I have the actual movie poster. And no one else shared my enthusiasm. I remember that. I remember talking to all my sci-fi friends that were all, hardcore Trekkies and Star Wars guys. And I'm like, dude, have you guys seen the Stargate movie? It's incredible. They're like, it's okay. And they weren't really into it the way I was. And there wasn't any other content out there. There was just nothing. And there was no books. There was no extended universe. Unlike everything else, the other sci-fi franchises, there wasn't anything to talk about. So I remember I missed the first couple seasons because it was on cable and I didn't have cable. But I managed to pick it up when I was finally an adult in like 2001 when I got out of the military. So I joined the military, came out, and I rented the first couple seasons from like Blockbuster. Next thing you know, I was watching it live, man. Eventually on Sci-Fi, and I watched it every single week, every spinoff, all the way until the very, very end. And I had a pretty large group of people with me that were just watching it every Friday. They would just show up, we'd get food, we'd watch Stargate every week. And it's funny how it's like, 25 years later, I'm doing the same thing now on Sundays with my buddy John, who's in the chat right now, on Sci-Fi Chronicles 79, and we basically do watch parties every Sunday at 12:30 on his YouTube channel, Sci-Fi Chronicles 79, and we sit there and watch Stargate the same way I used to do it with my buddies. And so I watched every episode up until the very end, and then I rented every DVD. I kept a couple of them, and Blockbuster overcharged me for the seasons I kept.
You paid fees for Stargate?
Oh yeah, I paid
that's
fees
true
for
love.
Stargate. I watched the movies when they came out. I bought them at Barnes and Nobles, which I think is defunct now. And then I was reading like Gate World pretty much on the weekly. I was reading fan fiction. I was reading Stargate books, really into Stargate. And then me and my brother started a company, and I took a lot of time off Stargate because there wasn't anything Stargate to talk about until Stargate Command came with their streaming service that didn't work out. But I got my Stargate Command shirt as a supporter, and they made Stargate Origins, which was okay. It didn't hurt the rest of the franchise, so I was fine with it. And around that time, Shane and I started making YouTube videos for other stuff. And I remember going, Shane, we need to make a Stargate videos.
We were doing the Orville at the time.
And we were doing Orville. And Shane's like, Stargate hasn't been around for 20 years. What are you talking about? Or a long time. Why don't we do that? Yeah. He was going to watch it. I'm like, I don't care. I just want to make cool Stargate stuff. And he agreed. And here we are. And so it's been a long journey. I literally watched the movie when I was probably like 14. And I've been hooked since 14. When people go, what's your favorite science fiction franchise? Look, I'm a Trekkie. I'm a Star Wars fan. Legacy Star Wars, Legacy Trek, right? But I've told Shane this, and Shane can back me up. I've always said my number one sci-fi franchise has always and will always be Stargate.
Yeah, very nice.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Hey,
well,
before you go,
I gotta
Shane,
tell you,
before you go, let me say, Jeff Sons and Shadows Cast in the chat wants to know, is there a story with that movie poster?
Yeah, actually.
Where'd the poster come from, Brian?
So my roommate at the time, was actually, I think I might have told them this, which is why they said that. And someone's gonna rob me, guys. So my roommate at the time, his name was Jason, and he knew I was a huge Stargate fan, and he wanted to get me a birthday gift, and at some point in his travels, his vagabond travels, because he's a vagabond, he came across this Stargate poster in its like original movie frame, like the kind of movies. Sorry, I'm coughing. The kind of frames you get in like movie theaters. And I'm actually starting to think maybe someone stole it from a movie theater because it was still in the movie theater frame. He bought it for $5, gave it to me for my birthday. Coolest thing I ever had. I tried to take it out of the frame, and I couldn't take it out of the frame because it was so old, it was like glued to the frame. Finally, a few years ago, I managed to use a trick I learned on YouTube on how to remove old picture paintings. And there's actually a signature on the back of this poster. And I'm like 98% sure, because it's messed up a little bit, 98% sure that it's Roland Emmerich's signature. And now I put it back in its frame, and I tried to take it out to take a picture. And now the poster is now glued to the new frame. So I'm going to have to, when paper gets old, it starts to glue itself to everything. But this poster literally came from like a garage sale or a thrift store or something. And there is a Roland Emmerich signature along with two other signatures I could not recognize on the back of the poster. And it's my pride and joy. It's not going anywhere. And I don't think it could. Even if I wanted to get rid of it, I don't think it's coming out of that frame. I think it's just glued in there permanently. So
yeah, and the frame is now stuck to the wall.
No,
well, if you ever get it off, I'd love to see a picture of the signatures. See if we can figure out who they are. That's amazing.
Well, there's two I don't recognize at all. Like they're really. I've tried to Google it and I couldn't find nothing.
Jane, did your brother drag you into Stargate, or were you OG?
I think I've told you that story before. So this is actually hilarious. Back in '94, so I grew up a Trekkie, and huge Star Trek fan. Original series. If I could have had a father, it would have been William Shatner. And so it was very, very. I was very excited in 1994. I was 21 years old, and I'm waiting for Generations to come out because we're getting Picard and Kirk on screen in a movie together, and I just couldn't wait. But before that happened, there was this Stargate movie that was coming out, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And I said, "I'm gonna go see that." So I went and saw it, and I'm watching Kurt Russell and David Spader and And I was like, wow, this is a really cool movie, you know. And I remember walking out of the theater thinking, you know, this really like, I have more questions than they gave me answers to this movie. I actually feel like I would like to know more about this universe, and I want to know where these Stargates go and stuff. Well, I was in the Navy and deployed and gone all the time, but I had heard word of this Stargate TV show getting started, and but I just, you know, I could never connect. There was never any, you know, good service where I was at, you know. So finally, I get out. The time passes. Stargate's gone by, and Brian and I are working together later on, and he's talking about Stargate. I'm like, yeah, you know, the movie was good, you know, blah blah. I said, but I never watched the Stargate TV shows. And he was like, what? What? Are you kidding me? And he's like freaking out. And so I immediately, you know, I think this is 2012 maybe. And so I started watching. But from like the moment I started watching it, I couldn't stop. And I think I watched, you know, all 3 series in a matter of, I don't know, like a month and a half. It was just, it was a serious binge watch. And I've come to love the series and love Stargate. And to be honest with you, I love the TV shows way more than I ever loved the movie. But I'm grateful that that Emmerich and those guys actually created this so that we would have this for all time. And it's one of the greatest TV shows and series of all time. I'm still probably a Star Trek guy first, if I'm being 100% honest.
Okay.
But Stargate would be my second for sure.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, you guys, rapid fire favorite show. Can you pick one of the Stargate series that sort of stands above and beyond for the rest?
Over Atlantis for me sort of has the most rewatchability, but it's hard to say that because without SG-1 there is no Atlantis. Like SG-1 is like the foundation, you know. But I find myself, it's easier to rewatch Atlantis more often than SG-1, and it might be because there's less Atlantis, you know. But for sure, I love them both. But Atlantis seems just a little slicker, a little easier to get into, and it's a little easier to show other people. Because sometimes when I'm trying to get someone else interested in it, they get turned off by aspect ratios and how sort of older, you know, SG-1 looks. I'm gonna be honest. Shane thinks I'm crazy when I say that, but it's true.
I can't tell anything, but that's fine.
Yeah, but Atlantis is like slicker, a little more modern, and so I've been able to sort of onboard people into Stargate by watching Atlantis with them, and then we usually go back and we watch SG-1. But so I would have to say Atlantis is just more digestible, but SG-1 is my favorite all time. I can't say it's the best thing ever. So
yeah, Shane.
I love them all. But SG-1 is my favorite. And if I do rewatches, I will, if I'm just putting something on to watch it, it's SG-1. There's something about the relationship. There's something about Samantha Carter and the relationship that as it grows in that first season, when I can't remember which episode it was. It was the episode where Carter and O'Neill end up jumping through the gate, but they can't find them. And it comes out that they end up there in Antarctica. And
Solitudes.
And something about that episode that just like I'm getting chills thinking about right now, that just took me to the core of what TV should be all about. And from there on, it was just a race. I could never get enough.
I love that blooper when Sam's like, "Why don't you just MacGyver something? You need some you need some chewing gum
with MacGyver." Yeah, that was brilliant. Yeah, and Amanda had the comedian chops that she brought from her background as well. Solitude is a great early episode, right? Because it's what I love about this so much about the episode, other than being a Sam Jack shipper, is it's a mystery. It's a gate puzzle that everybody back at Stargate Command, right? Daniel and Hammond and Teal'c are trying to figure out. And it's that aha moment of what happens when you dial your own phone number. Wrong person. What happens when you dial your own phone number? You get a busy signal. And they figure out this other Stargate that they went to is on Earth. It's great early Stargate.
And it's so easy to understand for everyone else. Like they can understand the science right away because it's the comparison is a phone that everyone understands. One of my favorite all-time episodes, easily.
Yeah. Although, you know what, showing SG-1 to my kids we had to kind of pause at that moment. What happens when you dial your own phone number? You get a busy signal. With kids these days, we had to pause and explain, okay, back in the olden days, you would pick up a telephone. It had a wire going into the wall.
Yeah, now you call yourself, you get your voicemail.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't use voicemail. I use text messages because it's 2026. But I remember if you called yourself, you get your voicemail.
Yeah, the writing was so special. I always go back and when I watch it, so, because and I know we're going to talk about the writing today and, and the writing in the past. One of the things I loved about Star Trek was, especially the original series, was the writing is so good. Like, the science and the characters and the way everything kind of envelops each other. What I noticed on SG1 with Brad and a lot of the guys writing the scripts was they really were able to break down the science and make it digestible for us. It was never over our heads. It always made sense, and it was always so clever. And a lot of times I didn't feel like I was watching something that some other science fiction had already done, like Brad was never like recreating something he'd already seen before. It seemed like he was coming up with really fresh stuff most of the time. And it just makes for a really enjoyable watch. So SG1 for me, but of course, I love the relationships on Atlantis too. The universe has a special place in its short, existence.
Yeah, Universe wasn't my favorite, if I'm being honest with you. I like its place in the Stargate lore. I like that they added the additional lore to the universe is awesome. The ancients and the seed ships and the additional the extra symbols and what happens when you dial them. But to me, the cast, this is my opinion. Don't yell at me, guys. Like the cast was just not very likable, and it didn't feel very likable. And I kept waiting for them to become likable, and they just never became likable.
The characters, you mean?
The character, yeah. I'm not talking about the cast. You're not the actors. Yeah, the actors are fine. Yeah, like Lee, what is it? Lee Diamond. What's the guy's name?
Lou Diamond Phillips.
Lou Diamond Phillips.
Colonel
Telford. A legend. No. Yeah, Lee. He's a legend. I'm not talking about the actors. The characters never became likable to me. So when you watch SG1, even the most aggressive, grating, unlikable characters in SG1, most of them got redemption arcs and they became likable, or you understood them better. I think Woosley was such a weasel, and then he became this like super likable guy and like honorable, played by Robert Picardo on Atlantis. Same with Rodney McKay. It took a long time. Yeah, so I think it's entirely possible that Universe just didn't get enough time for me to feel the characters were likable. But then again, I'm not expecting the ancillary characters to become likable. But what happened was not even like the main characters. The only likable character to me in the entire franchise was David Bluth's character. And everyone else seemed very selfish, and they didn't have the same character that SG1 Atlantis characters had.
But like you said, they have to, so they can have their character arc. If they don't start this way, and so when you only get one season, it's 2 seasons. When you only get a short time to tell the story, it really doesn't give you the opportunity. And they didn't think they were going to be done after 2. So
still, it's 40 episodes. It's a lot more than most TV shows now get.
It's about what most TV shows now get.
Yeah, that's like 4 seasons in modern day TV.
Yeah, they want to try something different, and they wrote a show that sort of deliberately made the audience sit in and stew in the tension and the uncomfortability of these characters and what they were going through. I think it would have gotten there. I think season 3 would have been.
I think you're right.
Different from season 2. Season 4 would have been sort of incrementally. The show was in the process of coming into its own.
And I think you're right. I really, to this day, I wonder what happened to Eli in the void. Like, it's such an interest. I would love to learn about what happens to that character. When he wakes up, is he so much older and probably skinnier and all buff from doing prison push-ups? And he wakes up his younger crew? And how were they going to accomplish that? Like, had they actually done that, how are they going to accomplish an older, physically different Eli to the rest of the cast, or were they just going to wake him up early or something? I don't know. I really wanted to find out where I was going to go. Also, what's up with the aliens that were constantly hunting them? There's so many strings that were left hanging that I will still want to know. I don't dislike SGU. It's more like, if you have to compare the three, it's definitely like the redheaded stepchild to me. The other two I watch all the time, and SGU I pretty much watch when I'm doing a chronological watch through. It's not something I look forward to like I do, SG1 Atlantis. And I've probably seen SG1 Atlantis 18 times in the last 20
It's
years.
also a bigger commitment, right? I feel like when I'm in the mood to watch Stargate, right? I got an hour for a lunch break. I'm gonna put on an episode with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And when I'm ready to watch SGU, I got to be ready to commit to 40 hours of it.
That's very true, actually. Yeah, because like there is no because there's no conclusion. It's almost like so it's what's funny?
Yeah, reading the chapter out of the middle of a book.
Yeah, it's very much like a modern day show where you can't really jump in at the end. Like, it's almost designed to be binge watched. Meanwhile, Stargate maybe has underlying story arcs, but they do have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Like, there is a conclusion of that episode, even if it's an underlying arc that they're following. So I find it easier to watch those movies like shows like that, which is why I also love Supernatural and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Star Trek, and I like episodes that have a contained story within an hour-long period. I actually prefer TV over movies because it's just easier to digest. I can take my lunch break, sitting on my computer editing, and I can watch a 40-minute episode of Stargate while I'm eating and feel satisfied, like I got a meal in my brain and in my body.
Okay, favorite character from any or all three shows?
Man, it's happening, bro. Samantha Carter.
Carter?
She's the GOAT. Look, I love O'Neill. Okay. I follow him on Twitter. Okay. I love O'Neill. And I love Jackson. I love that Jackson went from being like this hyper nerd, blowing his nose, afraid of his own shadow, to this straight up archaeological Indiana Jones Chad. I love that. I remember watching when he cut the sleeves off his shirt, and all of a sudden he wasn't wearing the glasses. I'm like, whoa, we're getting jacked, Daniel Jackson. Awesome. I love that. Tilk
Daniel
is the
jacked, son.
Yeah, Daniel jacked, son. Tilk is one of my favorite all-time characters of any franchise. The guy is both hilarious and badass at the same time. That's a hard line to walk. And O'Neill is the glue. But if I had to pick one, Samantha Carter, Amanda Tapping, is in every single show. She is a huge part of every episode that I've watched. I think she has more screen time than any other character. And she blew up a sun. How cool is that?
Yeah. I mean, you can't go against Sam Carter. She's obviously the best character. But if I was going to go with a second of my personal favorite, it's going to be Dr. Rodney McKay, David Hewlett. I love him. I love when he was introduced on SG-1. I love everything he did in Atlantis. And I just love his mannerisms and his attitude and his snarkiness. But you could go through, I could do what Brian did. I could go through and say there are things I love about every character. If there weren't a ton of characters that I loved, then I wouldn't love the series. So, but I would go there.
Yeah.
And can I, if I had to pick, actually, I'm going to amend my statement. My favorite character in all of Stargate is freaking Walter. That guy's a legend.
Walter.
7-7. Locked.
Gotta have Walter.
Listen, I always told Shane this. If I ever get rich somehow, win the lottery, get an inheritance, something like that, win a huge lawsuit because someone took my legs in a horrible surfing accident, something like that. If I won a bunch of money, like an ungodly amount of FU money, I'm telling you right now, I would find that actor and I would hire him just to announce me everywhere I went. to be the person who answered my phone. He would be my best friend that I paid for. He'd be
Brian
the guy
Montgomery,
that just announced it. Brian Montgomery, locked. I'm telling you, Walter's awesome.
Yeah, Gary Jones. I'd love to see it.
I hope we see Gary Jones on a new series.
Favorite episode from each show. We already mentioned Solitudes for SG-1. Shane, do you have a Is that your favorite episode of SG-1? Do you have picks for Atlantis and Universe?
I got so many. I didn't actually go through before. I mean, I could sit here and go through tons of them. I love when we learned that the replicators can be killed by only humans can kill the. We have the technology we need for the replicators
because our technology is so primitive, right?
Yeah, and they find a way to get off the ship before it kills everyone. I have so many great episodes. I really can't hit
Nemesis,
one.
Season 3 finale, one of my favorites.
Yes. And I think from Atlantis, it's probably when Michael, one of the Michael episodes. I love the, when you take an evil character and you get somewhat of a redemption arc for them. I would go with one of those. Gosh, there's so many great episodes. I don't know, Brian, what do you got?
I mean, I'm gonna be the basic Stargate fan here and just say window of opportunity, because I can't get a better episode. It's one of those episodes that I have shown to so many people as a standalone, like not like, oh, let's watch the entire franchise. Just let's just put on this one episode, and you need to see how clever this is. And it's almost a bottle episode and how affordable it was to probably make, considering the 2 locations they visit the entire time and the limited cast.
Yeah.
I just love that episode so much. I think it's so clever. I'm also I'm a sucker for time loop stuff. If you follow us on Twitter, I always talk about time loop movies.
Oh yeah.
I love time loop movies. Yeah, I can't get enough of a clever time loop movie. Is so interesting to me. And a bad one is so bad. Like there's no in between. It's either, oh, that's incredible, or that's really stupid. And so Window of Opportunity might be one of the episodes that sort of shaped that desire in me for those kind of stories, because it's such a cool story. And I just love I just love everything about that episode. Everything. Even the very
Question for you. What episode did Shepard go like 48,000 years into the future? What episode was that? I love that episode.
Yeah, that's the season 4 finale, The Last Man.
I love that episode.
That's a cool episode. If I had to pick one from Atlantis, though, and this is a weird one, so bear with me, but Letters from Pegasus is one of those episodes that always had me sort of, it always tugged at my heart every single time. It does not super action adventure. And let me tell you something. Shane is probably like, Letters to Pegasus, bro, don't you like explosions? Yes, I love explosions. I love action. But that episode, I already love the characters. And so you sort of solidify them to me as my Friday family that I watch every week. And so that episode just killed it for me. And I don't really have a favorite universe episode. So I'll just say, I guess the pilot when Jack was in it. But
how about the time travel in Twin Destinies? They got a duplicate Rush, a duplicate Destiny.
That's true. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I did like that, actually. I forgot what episode that was called, though. As you guys can see, I'm not a huge universe savant. I apologize.
I think that was in the 2nd season.
That is a good episode, though. That was a very, very good episode. The writing on SGU was never the problem. Like, the guys knew what to do. It just didn't have the same thing that Atlantis and SG1 had. So I just didn't feel as drawn to it. But it 100% had its place in the pantheon of Stargate canon. But something about Letters from Pegasus always did it for me. And I honorable mention the episode, and I'm forgetting the name of the title right now. Darren, you probably know because you're like an encyclopedia.
Yeah, hit me.
But the one where Rodney, it's the alternate timeline, and he's in Vegas, and they're playing Johnny Cash.
You got it. The episode's called Vegas.
Vegas. Okay, dude, that episode was so freaking cool. Like in my mind, give me an entire series where you just do alternate versions of Stargate. I want to see every week an alternate reality version of a Stargate character, and I would be happy with that. And Elseworlds, like DC has Elseworlds, right? Elseworlds Stargate. That would have been a cool concept too. Imagine like that you're on a ship, and instead of it going through a gate, you were actually visiting. And they sort of did this with the window, the mirror. Remember the mirror in SG1? they could have had an entire team that visited and explored alternate realities, which would have been rad. I know it would have been a little too much like Sliders, but it would have been rad. Stargate, alternate Stargate, whatever.
What about Wormhole Extreme? That's one of those,
That's a fan favorite for
I
obvious
love
reasons.
that,
Yeah. I like Wormhole Extreme. Yeah, but you know what's funny? If you don't already like the series, you're not going to be like, "Oh, this is a great episode of television." You have to be a fan of Stargate.
Yeah,
I feel
the same way about 200, which is when they brought Wormhole Extreme back.
Yes.
It's a love letter to fans, but if you're not a fan,
you don't care.
I wouldn't use Wormhole Extreme to introduce somebody to the show, right? You go
something
like
you would.
Window of Opportunity.
Steep cut.
Window of Opportunity is a perfect on-ramp for SG1, in my opinion. It's light, it's understandable, and it's super clever. And it because of the repetition, you actually learn a lot about these characters really quickly. That's the episode I showed my kids, and they were laughing when they understood the concept of the gate when they're golfing through the gate. Several billion miles, O'Neill. That was one of those lines I remember my kids saying a couple of times. Several billion miles, O'Neill.
Yeah.
And they're still not Stargate fans, but they like that episode because it was clever,
Yeah, my son was quoting that. I mean, we watched the show back when it was first airing, and fans have been quoting it for 2 decades since. My son was probably 11 or 12 when he watched that, and he was quoting it verbatim basically as soon as it was over.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Deez Matters said the Rodney one was cool. I think you're talking about the Tale of Rodney. Is that the one? Because that's also one of my favorite too. The Tale of Rodney is a great episode. Anyway, I could talk about favorite episodes for
amazing Rodney episodes. The Dow of Rodney in season 3 and the Shrine in season 5.
Oh, the Shrine was
my
great.
2 favorite Rodney episodes. Shrine is a Brad Wright joint.
You know what they made? They made a mistake by not selling that painting that they had above the fireplace of Shepard hiding behind the whatever it was, and McKay in front of it with the P90 and the princess. I to this day want to buy that painting as a recreation and put it on my wall. It's so good.
It's got to be out there. I saw the original they had hanging in the production offices, and
I've looked for it.
It's floor to ceiling. It's huge. I'm sure it's in the hands of a collector at this point.
Someone needs to scan that sucker and put it online so we can print it out, man.
Okay, tell me what's going on Popcast these days. I reached out to you guys to get you to come on the show, not knowing that you were putting the final touches on another Stargate video. Would you tell us what's going on and about the Stargate stuff that you're working on right now?
Yeah, we are very excited about it. We've been working on history. So if you go back, we did Goonies in December, and if you go back, we did Superman last year. We've been doing a bunch of stuff, but we said we need to get back to Stargate because there's so much more stories to tell. But specifically, we never did Stargate the movie. We never did the history on that. And when we went looking for a good documentary that kind of goes through it, there really isn't any out there that really tell the entire story of how that made. And we kind of wanted to honor how Stargate got started. And because we're so excited about the upcoming new series that Martin and everybody are working on, that we just kind of wanted to go back and retouch Stargate and kind of go through that again. So we're starting with the Stargate movie, and that should be coming out next week, right, Brian?
Yep. Yeah. So when we made the first history of Stargate, the Stargate franchise, just so you guys know, it has 4 million views, but it was also 48 minutes long.
Right. Short.
Yeah. So since then, we've made 2-hour documentaries about single movies.
Yeah.
I want to be clear. We made a 48-minute video, and we called it arrogantly the definitive history of the Stargate franchise.
I know. I think about that all the time. It was our first.
A single movie we've dived into and given 2-hour full-length documentaries. So I told Shane, and this is before the news that the new Stargate was going to happen. It's funny. I'm so happy that news came out. It's so good for us on our channel, because I was like, I remember telling Shane last year, Shane, next year when we're done with Superman and because we did Alien and Superman, and we were going through like every franchise that we're like in like started in like the 80s. And I was like, Shane, can we please go back and do Stargate correctly? Like do the movie, SG-1, Atlantis, Universe, Origins, like really dig in and make a series of documentaries and like the coup de grace of and then if you want, I'll never bother you about Stargate again. Shane was like, and I thought he was gonna fight me on it because he was like, no, I thought he was gonna be like, oh, we already made, people are gonna want to watch another one. We already made that. I'm like, it's 48 minutes. And he's like, no, it's a great idea. We should do it. I'm like, oh. And we literally like we were planning on doing it at the beginning of this year, and that's when we did start it. And then when that news came out, it just sort of solidified like this is definitely the way to go this year. We want to make sure we get like our Mona Lisa, because Stargate's my favorite thing. Like, just do it right and do the entire thing. Not 48 minutes, but like the entire thing.
I always felt guilty,
start to finish. Yeah,
I always felt bad that it was so short. I'm like, it definitely feels definitive in the way that I don't know if anything else is really that definitive, unless you're going to Gate World and reading, that's definitive, frankly speaking.
That's
but
definitive.
As far as a video goes, we thought that was pretty definitive, but now it turns out it's not definitive enough for us. And if you've seen our Voyager documentary, which
2.5 hours long, by the way,
which is, yeah. And what we did for Voyager, we're like, I mean, if we don't do that for SG-1, then what good are we? So, yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
how the dare we call ourselves?
How dare
thorough. Exactly.
Yeah.
The Voyager documentary has like 1.5 million views right now too. And I think it's about 2.5 hours long. Sorry, go ahead.
That's the Voyager one?
That's the Voyager one, yeah.
I did a Gate World documentary on SG-1 for the 25th anniversary a few years back, and finally got the video released, and it's about the same length. It's like 45 minutes, I think, and I deliberately called it a short history of Stargate
because it
SG-1.
is, yes.
Because even then I'm cutting corners. I mean, I've got reams of notes on the show. Someday it might end up being a book.
Right. So we're not going to cut corners on this one because I feel like we did on the original doc. We definitely did. I don't feel like we definitely did. And we know we're so much better at this now than we were when we made the first documentary. Like much better motion graphics and I score music for it. Shane will research and write for like 3-4 months. And he wants to make sure every bit of information that is remotely relevant is in this documentary in an interesting way. And that's the key. It needs to be interesting.
You can be definitive.
Yeah, you want to be definitive, but you don't want to be boring, right?
Right. Right. It's a fine line.
Right. So, and then now we're so much better at it. We literally make entire cinematic scores and motion graphics. I'm literally I have After Effects open right now. I've made like 50 different titles for the one we have coming up next week. And it's a lot of work, but man, when it's all together, I feel proud of it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really feel proud of the first documentary. I was like, it's okay. I'll be real with you guys. I remember
we're all learning. Yeah, we're getting new skills. I remember
seeing it cross 1 million views. I'm like, this is the 1 million view video. We're gonna show that thing, man. This is the one.
I was at GateCon, and David DeLuise, who plays Pete Shanahan on SG-1, was talking to David, and I was like, did you see, I just watched a documentary about Stargate on YouTube. And clearly it was obvious to me he was talking about your SG-1 definitive history. But that's so cool. It's getting out there. It's getting watched. Do we know how long the new one is? Do you have a rough cut locked? Is this going to be a 2-hour movie?
About
history?
6 hours.
6 hours on the Stargate movie?
Well, on all of it, yeah.
On the entire series. So the movie is probably about an hour. I'm assuming the SG-1 is probably a couple of hours. So like the whole series together, from the movie to Stargate Origins, as the sort of the final piece of Stargate media that created. Yeah. Like I'm assuming that entire series will be across 4 videos, probably like 6 hours.
That's Brian wanting it to be 6 hours because I write longer than he wants me to. It's probably going to be more like 8 if you're being honest. And it's 5 videos. It's got to be
Brian's
5
doing the
videos.
editing,
Five?
right?
I thought it was 4. It's 5. Oh,
no, because if you're going to give Origin its own video, then...
You're right. Yeah, here's what Shane. Now, listen, editors out there know this. Darren knows this. For every minute of time it takes you to edit, right? Every minute is like an hour of work almost. Okay. So when Shane goes, hey, listen, it's only 2.5 hours. I'm like, that's a month of work. Like, that's a month of work. Because, like, every minute and a half is about an hour of editing time once you average everything out. Because, like,
especially
some parts
if you're doing
easy.
your own score and effects.
Yeah, some parts are harder. Like, and sometimes I'm inspired and I create like this awesome score right away. And I'm like, oh, this is sick. It sounds like Stargate. It's not going to get copyright claim. But then sometimes I'm on like the 15th iteration of something. I show it to Shane and he's like, doesn't really sound like Stargate. I'm like, oh, look at that. Because Shane's so honest. I'll show him. He'll be like,
yeah.
He'll be like, oh,
you need a collaborator
man,
who's going to tell you the truth.
Yo, he tells me the truth. He'll be like, it sounds good, but
both
it
of
doesn't
you
sound
make
anything
your
like
make your stuff better.
Right.
It's just him and I too. So I mean, it's only us working on it.
It's just us.
Well, Ocean Stars in the chat
Shane
wants
has to go back and re-record.
Do you guys do this as a full-time paid job? You're inspiring Ocean Stars to set up a channel.
Do we get paid? That's cool.
We get paid
no,
for
just
this?
kidding. You know, I would say that if I would not choose it as like a career, you got to love it because, you know, you're never going to become rich doing this, but if you love it, you'll never work a day in your life. How about that?
In the words of the great Adam Carolla, the king of terrestrial radio, he said, you do things for one of two reasons, either because it makes you money or it makes you happy. If you can get a job that makes you a little bit of money and makes you happy, then you've won.
Yeah. So we've won.
Yeah.
Right. But we don't make very much.
Don't quit your job to start doing this.
Yeah, don't quit. Don't quit. If you have a lucrative job, do this as a hobby. Okay. If we didn't have we have a t-shirt site. This is actually our real business. It's called mixtees.com. You can go there, mixedtees.com or mxtz.co. Sorry if I'm promoting, Darren. And we have a lot of Stargate stuff there. Like, we have a whole Stargate command section, and our Save the Gate shirt will be going back up when we put our video out next week.
Okay.
But that's actually a permanent business. So Shane and I were brothers, but we got into business like 20 years ago, creating t-shirts and merch, like literally like hats and mouse pads and t-shirts and hoodies and phone cases. And so we have like a shop, and we create these things and send out. So that's the reason we started YouTube, was because we wanted to have a way to promote our t-shirt site. And then YouTube
Initially,
sort of
right.
And then YouTube sort of just took over our lives, and and we had to like sort of allocate other people to help us with the t-shirt, the merch site. And both don't make a ton of money, but they're both still running. So that's good. I guess. It's definitely a labor of love, guys.
Good. So what's coming next week then? Is that this is chapter 1 is on the movie? We're not going to get all chapter 8 hours next week.
No, we're going to get just the movie next week.
Cool.
Probably an hour and 15 minutes, I'm guessing. Hour and 15.
Very cool. This is
but it's definitely deep.
Some of my favorite stuff that I watch on YouTube is TV and film production history stuff, and I'll just disappear down the rabbit trail. I imagine you guys like the same kind of stuff.
Oh, same.
The Voyager documentary. I'll go down a rabbit hole and end up watching, DC cinematic mishaps for 3 hours. I'll go down the Simpsons rabbit hole or Saturday Night Live and just watch all the behind the scenes production stuff.
It's almost like its own little story, because like the people behind it that created these wonderful things are their own characters with their own drama and their own challenges and their own victories. And I believe that Shane believes the same way. I think that those people should be celebrated. Like, they created something that was not just special to, a lot of people, but like it shaped the fabric of storytelling for decades and decades. Like Stargate, and people always talk about how Star Trek is like the foundation for science fiction. Sure. But you know what? A lot of folks have made a lot of content because of their love for Stargate. And I believe that Stargate I do think that Stargate might win the ultimate war of attrition when it comes to top franchise because
I
of
think
how long it's been able to stick around.
I think Stargate's the fans are the hungriest, and that's and when you're hungry for something, you're ready to devour. And so I'm not
starving.
Darren is going to get us there. Yeah, we were starving. Stargate fans are starving.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that's it exactly. That's the segue to what we want to talk about, which is we're excited about the new show. I at least feel great about whose hands the new show is in. But it's landing, end of 2027, maybe the first part of 2028 when the show finally gets here on Prime Video. The science fiction and fantasy landscape is going to be different. It's already different today. I can only guess what it's going to look like 2 years from now. But we wanted to kind of talk about what you guys are excited about for the new show, what you hope it is, what you want it to be, but also in the context of, I mean, I don't know. How do you guys feel? There's a lot of negativity around science fiction right now. There's stuff being canceled. Star Wars is right. Lucasfilm and Disney are trying to pivot from streaming series back to feature films in Star Wars. Mandalorian and Grogu looks like it's kind of a, take what would have been season 4 of a TV show and put it on the big screen. Starfleet Academy just got canceled, so now we have no new Star Trek that is actively in production. We've got more seasons coming of Strange New Worlds and Starfleet Academy that we haven't seen yet, but that franchise seems to be kind of right. New ownership at Paramount seems to be sort of reevaluating what the franchise looks like. All of this is on the table. Where do you guys want to start?
Can I start, Shane? Is that cool?
Yeah, go for it.
I think Star Trek is going to take a break, and it's only because it hasn't been successful. And there's probably Star Trek fans that look at this and go, "What are you talking about? I love it." And yeah, listen, personally, you can like something, but it hasn't been successful to the majority of Star Trek fans, and that includes the silent majority of people that just didn't watch. And if you look at like the Nielsen ratings, and you look at these other statistical models, Starfleet Academy is one of the poorest performing series so far. The first season of a new series usually gets a lot of attention and will piddle off on the second season. This one, it piddled off after like 3 episodes. It never tracked, never even made enough numbers to actually show stats on Nielsen. And that's saying something, because usually Star Trek tracks. Star Trek has numbers, and Academy didn't, after the first episode, didn't track enough to even show stats. So you look at that, and look at the dwindling viewership of Strange New Worlds, other projects that were fan favorites that they canceled, like Lower Decks, Prodigy, etc. And you look at just the numbers. It's not that, I dislike Kurtzman or Alex Kurtzman, the guy who's running it, or I dislike the new series. I think the owners don't have to be Star Trek fans or even be inside the culture war to understand that what's going on. They just have to look at the actual numbers, and they can see a cost to benefit ratio and go, well, this cost more than it makes, and it's cost more than it's made since Netflix was paying for Discovery. So about 10 years now, this has been a loss. And I think the new owners of Paramount, not being Trek fans, not knowing anything about it, can just look at this and be like, it needs new leadership, or we need to take a break. And that's what's going to happen. And the same thing with Star Wars.
I think there's a way to look at this. There's a reason why we should be excited that Martin is doing this with the support of Brad and Joe. And that's because when you take a look at projects where the original creator came back and did something with it, or somebody who was involved in the original thing, it's been pretty successful. So if you take a look at Star Trek Picard season 3, right? Terry Matalas comes back. He worked on Voyager and Star Trek Enterprise, and it was his lifelong dream to do Star Trek. So he comes in with Picard season 3, and it's like, boom, the viewing numbers are huge. Fans are back because he's creating something that not only allows new viewers to come in and appreciate it, but he grabs all the old fans and drags them along. And so I think that's what we have to look forward to with the new Stargate series. I think Martin will drag us old fans into something while also bringing new fans, because I do believe that Amazon or any of these studios, they want the old fans' eyes, but they kind of assume that the older fans are going to just come along anyways. What they really crave is younger audiences who are going to stick around for a longer period of time, who are going to bring dollars for years and years and years to come. And so I think we have a really interesting opportunity where Star Trek did not do that with its new going from Discovery to Strange New Worlds and all these shows. Right. They did it, I would say, with the Prodigy show actually was very great Star Trek, and
great track.
Really good. And Lower Decks, hit a chord with a lot of fans. So I think I love
Lower Decks.
We are in we're in the bird's eye seat with Stargate, because we have this, we're going to cherish the old. We're going to continue the canon, but we're going to create something new. I mean, that's what fans want anyways. We want new content that cherishes the old. So I really think we're in a special place, as opposed to what a lot of these other, and we can honestly, Darren, we can talk Star Trek. We've gone down the whole road with this stuff, and we can
6
talk Star
hours,
Wars.
Darren.
We've gone down the whole road.
You guys want to stick around for 6 hours? We'll talk about this for 6 hours.
So I think we're sitting in a great seat with Stargate, though.
Yeah, my feeling.
Can I add to that? Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, let me just say quickly on Starfleet Academy. I feel like watching this show, lifelong Star Trek fan. I was 11 years old when TNG premiered. There's a lot about the show that I like and appreciate, but I kind of didn't take very many episodes for me to realize I'm not the target audience for this anymore, and that's okay, right? I'm 50. I'm a 50-year-old father of
You're
three.
50?
That's yeah.
Wait a minute. Why do you look younger than me?
Look good, Darren. Look good.
Listen, I have
clean
a bad
living.
skin.
I'm
not living clean, bro. You look 10, 15 years younger than me. What the hell? I gotta get healthy. I'm the youngest person on the panel, and I look like I'm older than you guys.
No, but it's the problem that every studio that has a franchise that's trying to expand a franchise with multiple projects faces, which is not every project is going to be for everybody. And if you try and make it for everybody, you run the risk of diluting it or dumbing it down, making it bland and boring. But then if you niche down and you specialize, it can be really hard for a really expensive show. Like Starfleet Academy, to me, looks expensive, like most modern streaming series are. You gotta do numbers if you're going to spend that much on a show. And that's kind of my worry with Stargate. Not really a worry, but knowing that they have a budget, knowing that Amazon's going all in on the new Stargate show. I want everybody to love it. I think that it's in the right hands to be the kind of show like SG-1 and Atlantis that everybody who loves Stargate, well, I mean, not everybody, right? Because there are a lot of Stargate fans who came on board the franchise with Universe. They loved how different Universe was. And some of them, not all of them, have kind of gone back into SG-1 Atlantis from getting on board with Universe.
True.
But the point is, right, if you make an expensive show, it has to perform at a certain level. And there's a certain value in the shows that they were making in the 90s, where they were kicking out 26 episodes a season on a pretty tight budget for syndication. The performance metrics didn't have to be what they are today, right? You don't need 8 million people watching every week.
That's what I was going to say, because now it hasn't gotten cheaper to make good TV. It's gotten way more expensive. And I'm talking about like inflation levels expensive. Like it's like tripled, quadrupled. And some of these shows are costing so much money to make, and it's especially science fiction ensemble cast. When you have a huge cast, and that means every cast member has to have, especially regular, has to have like their own support team. And you have all these graphics, because graphics, they can't be PS2 graphics anymore. People aren't going to buy it. They have to be good. And all these extras that go into these location visits. So modern day television is going to would be the death of science fiction. And not because of how expensive it is. It's because it's not good enough to account for its cost. So it needs to start with the writing. The writing's good. Then a studio can confidently put money into a project to make a good science fiction series. Because I think a good science fiction series could just use nothing but puppets and low budget. But there's going to be a lot of people that want to see the spectacle too. So you have to start with good writing. And then after that, you have to have the budget to actually create it, right? Especially a sci-fi ensemble. Well, what happens in Hollywood a lot of the times, the writing room has a lot of people that don't like the source material they're working on. They hire people because of nepotism, or because they're next in line at the studio, or because they're someone's friend, or they like that person.
Did something that they did something else adjacent that they think will match what they're about, what they want to do.
But they're not fans of that. They're not fans of Trek or Star Wars or Stargate. They don't really care for it. So, and they act like we saw the Buffy series get canceled. Well, one of the writers and producers were like, "Yeah, I actually don't like Buffy," and they were very audible about it, which is crazy to me. The second I see a head writer writing for my series that says they don't like my series, I'd be like, "All right, go write something else." That's logic to me. But nowadays, a lot of studios don't do that. Well, what's funny, Amazon is actually in a unique position to do that. If you look at all their series, they have good stuff and they have bad stuff. And the reason why it's so eclectic is because they really let their creators sort of do whatever they want. And so you have hits on Amazon, and you have things that cost a bunch of money that flop. And it's because Amazon doesn't really get involved. They go like, "Oh, this is the creator. Good luck." Well, guess what? We got one of the originals, and he's bringing on his team that's also part of the original. So not only do we have writers and producers and team members from the original series that love the original series and are audible about how much they love the original series, but they also have the control, that very unique control that Amazon gives their creators. And only Amazon does that. Other studios don't give their creators as much leeway as Amazon does. And that's why you have things on Amazon that completely miss and things that really hit, because the creators have creative control over their project. So it's really good that's with Amazon, and Amazon got the right people to do it, and all the dominoes stacked up sort of perfectly. Like for us as fans, this is the best case scenario. Star Wars sort of crapped the bed. Star Trek has not performed for a long time, whether you like it or not. Facts are facts. And now there's a huge void. And one of the wealthiest studios on the planet with the most amount of creative freedom just hired the original people, essentially, to create Stargate. If you're a Stargate fan, this is best case scenario. The best case scenario for this modern age of TV storytelling.
And to piggyback on something Darren said that I think was really, really important, and not to take anything away from the hope and the great stuff Brian's talking about, but there is a little bit of fear because you can't go back and make Stargate the way it was made before. You can't. That was episodic television. All television is going to have a story arc now. There's going to be less episodes. We have to go into it with our eyes wide open. We, as old Stargate fans who loved things a certain way, we have to say to ourselves, okay, be ready, because this is going to be a different experience. And while they're going to cherish and protect canon, and they're going to, we're gonna get some of the feels of the old stuff, we have to be prepared to embrace something new. And not everybody can pull that off. That's why I'm so excited that Martin's doing this. Yeah. And he said specifically in your last interview that you and David did, he said he's giving notes, or Brad's giving him notes, and I think that's really key, because Brad's he knows the heart of the thing that he created. So I think it's exciting.
Super stoked. And by the way, we don't talk about Stargate Infinity, okay? No one, we don't talk about that. So let's
is somebody in the chat talking about Stargate Infinity?
Someone's talking about Stargate Infinity. That was a horrendous mistake.
There's your redheaded stepchild. I'll confess that I have been doing this for 27 years. I have not watched Stargate Infinity to the end.
I always get about halfway through and I go,
says something.
I get about halfway through and I go, I don't why am I doing this? Like,
I think, well, yeah, not to throw shade on the team that made it and the restrictions that they were under. It was Companion did a great interview piece a couple years ago with the guys that made Infinity, and again, the production history and the circumstances that they were working under is an important part of that story. I think, Brian, you're exactly right. I get these comments all the time. Of course, people are dumping on Amazon because of other shows that are on Amazon that they don't like for whatever reason. And I have to go back and say everything that I've heard, everything that we've seen from these different productions on Prime are that they're largely hands off. Now, maybe that's less the case with something like Rings of Power when they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars just to acquire the IP. But for the most part, I mean, Fallout and The Peripheral and The Expanse, The Boys,
Reacher,
Invincible. If you don't like a show that's on Prime Video, it's probably because of the writers and producers of that show.
Yeah,
not
the
because
studio.
of studio meddling.
Yeah, the studio. We've talked to people before, and a lot of reports. Studio really lets the creators create, and someone in the chat says because Amazon's not a studio, they're not creators. They hire people to create, and it's very unique because most Hollywood studios can't keep their fingers out of what they're paying for. But Amazon has a weird the way they operate is a little different because they sort of hire the team, and we had some inside information on this when we talked to someone about it. Like there's teams that work on different projects, and those teams then hire writers, showrunners and writers and producers, and then they just sort of go from there. So you have this weird hierarchy of like a small group that hire the group that hires the group that creates the stuff, and they don't really bother them. Once they've gotten their work done, they move on to the next thing. And
the reason they can do that, Brian, is because they're not dependent on the success of their TVs. It's Amazon. Amazon can take a loss someplace else. They're not. They their butt cheeks aren't squirted together.
I ordered a 12-pack of Coke when we started the show. It arrived, and we haven't ended the show. I don't even know how that happened. I literally heard the doorbell ring while we were sitting here still. It's insane. I never thought when I was 20 that you'd be able to order something online and it show up before you can get out of a Zoom call. So much money. They have so much money. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think? Well, I was going to say, what do you think the show needs to be? But let's start with what do you want the show to be? Knowing
20 episodes.
Who's behind it. 20 episodes.
20 episodes a season. I want 20 episodes a season, 48 minutes episodic. No, we're not going to get any of that. I'm sorry, Darren. I mean, new TV is what? 10 episodes?
It's two really different questions, right? What do you want and what do you think the show is going to be or needs to be?
Right.
I think it's 10.
I think we're going to get 10. I would love to have 20 episodes. I would love for TV to go back to the old way where we got a season of television where there was enough time to tell a long story and develop characters over multiple episodes, where you can have filler episodes and they're charming. Now you have 10 episodes. A filler episode is cheating. You don't have time for a filler episode. You don't have time to do anything but move the narrative, dude. So yes, we're not going to get that. We're going to get 10. So if I had to realistically say what I would like from a new Stargate series, I would like them to continue the franchise forward in time, not go back somewhere. I would like for that franchise to involve in some way. I mean, the new series to involve in some way characters that we know and love from other series. I would like to hear more about what happened to those other series. Maybe we're probably not going to get anything on the Destiny. Business. Unfinished business. The Destiny. Atlantis. As far as we know, Atlantis crash landed in the San Francisco Bay. That's a big deal. What happens there? We can't not talk about that. It's in the San Francisco Bay. Someone's going to know. So probably need to know what happened to Atlantis, what happened to those characters. And so what I want there to be some, like I said, on threads that were left hanging to be wrapped up in a way that is at the very least realistic, right? And I want them to involve some of the original characters, but I also want to see new characters. I don't want to just have a bunch of like much older actors on screen. Of course, I want to see newer characters, but I don't want to forget everything that happened before either. So I remember someone suggesting, oh, it's gonna be on a beta site with new people. And at first I was like, yeah, okay, I can see that. And I'm like, well, I don't want them to only be there, because like we want to see some kind of connection to the original series. So many new shows nowadays will reboot and have like exposition only connection to the franchise that they came from.
Right.
And I hate that. Like, oh, well, yeah, I remember that one character that walked into this quantum thing, and stop it. It's cheating for you to call yourself something that you're based, let's say Quantum Leap, just as an example.
We were going to go there?
It's cheating for yourself to call yourself Quantum Leap and have so little connection to Quantum Leap. And it's not just Quantum Leap. A lot of series do that, though. Night Court did that recently. It drove me nuts. It was it's such a simile of what Night Court used to be. But my thing is this: if you are going to use the diving board, the huge leap forward that Stargate's going to give you, and of course I think they're going to do this, you have to have a real connection to that original lore, and not just a tangential exposition only connection. Yeah. I want it to be a real tangible connection in some way. And by the way, I believe entirely that we're going to get that. But if you ask me what I would want realistically, that's what I want, and I believe it's going to happen.
Okay.
I want everything that Brian just said. Because but here's what I really want. I want the new characters. I want the casting to just be a home run. We need the casting of the new characters, because here's the grim reality of what's going to happen. We all want Sam and Jack and Daniel Jackson and everybody to come back. Okay. But here's the reality. They're not going to be back. Okay. They're not going to carry the show. And so the characters who are going to carry the show have to be good. So they need to nail the casting, and then they need to incorporate the heart of Stargate into this new series. I think they will. They've got the right people too. If they can do that, they can infuse it into the new characters, and we can have the second coming of something that we once loved. Then we're going to hit a home run, and it's going to be amazing.
Darren, can you go on my screen real quick?
Yep.
This is for Martin, sir. If you ever see this, please consider. Martin, I'm serious. This is not a joke. If you see this live stream, please consider Jensen Ackles. Jensen Ackles from some Supernatural fame. Please consider him as a recurring character of some sort. Maybe as the next O'Neill, the glue that holds the team together.
Doesn't he have a show right now?
Yeah, but he's finishing it. He's already done The Boys. It's over. And he left the FBI one. He's free, bro. He's free. Like, call him up. He works in Ontario. He knows a lot of the Stargate alum.
Was that not him who got the Boys spinoff?
I would literally, like, I would die happy if I got to see a Stargate a new Stargate series led by Jensen Ackles, who's, by the way, I can't show you, but he's one of my favorite. There it is.
There he is.
That's Demon Dean, one of my all-time favorite characters in the series, and it would be great. Please, Martin, please, sir,
you have his mugshot on your wall. Yeah, I guess you want him in the show,
dude.
But listen, nobody replaces Colonel O'Neill. I'm just saying.
No, we're not replacing. We're just adding a new character. You know what? Let's call him O'Neill with 3 L's.
I think you guys are exactly right. It's the show's got to be its own thing. It can't just be a greatest hits reunion. It can't just be nostalgia, member berries, geriatric SG-1 for one more mission. It's got to have its own story. It's got to have its own cast. It's got to have its own group of characters. And I hope that existing fans love it, and I hope that new fans find it, and this becomes their Stargate. And
don't go too young. Don't go too young, please. We don't want like toddler SG-1 either. We don't want geriatric or toddler. I don't want Zoomer SG-1. I want a realistic depiction of a military unit and what age it would be. Not some 17-year-old guy straight out of boot camp, whatever. Don't do that to us. I mean, you can have one of them, but not the whole team. Okay, it's got to be a diverse team of age groups. I don't want Stargate Academy. Okay, I don't want that. Don't want it.
One of the things that I think we talked about the number of episodes, and folks have been sounding off in the chat about the number of episodes that they want to see from the new show. Of course, all of us want more. The question is, for me, it's kind of settled. Now, Martin has not officially confirmed that it's 10 episodes, but it's kind of settled news that it's going to be, this is what streaming shows are these days. They're 8, 10 if you're lucky. 13 even these days is kind of gone. I think Daredevil, for Daredevil Born Again, I think they greenlit like a 16 episode first season. And then by the time they got into production and reworked it a bit, they just split that order into 2 seasons.
2 seasons. Yep.
So assuming we're operating from the standpoint the show's going to be around 10 episodes, it's a different kind of animal, right? We've compared it over and over again to the old miniseries format of television.
Right.
It's a single contained story with a beginning, middle, and an end. And the end, like Stargate was always great at doing at the end of its seasons, leaving those threads open for what the next season might grow into. So it doesn't cut itself off at the end of a season. Something like Picard, I think, it really kind of ended its story in some definitive ways at the end of each of its seasons. But if this is what we're going into with the Stargate show, it's 10 episodes or so, and it's telling that story. I mean, we can say I want 22 episodes all day long, but how do we as fans and as viewers approach the new show as a different format, right? Because 10 episodes, if it's a miniseries, 10 episodes is just a different, it's a different packaging. It's a different format for storytelling in the Stargate universe. And that's kind of how I feel like a lot of people are struggling right now is, how do I get my head around wanting it to be like it used to be, but also recognizing it's almost a different medium for storytelling.
Yeah, well, you watch it forward and then you watch it reverse, and that gives you about 20 episodes.
Well, the reality is the good news is we're getting used to it. So some of the great shows that are out now, like the Severances or the the Silos or whatever, some of the new shows that are out, they're getting us used to this format. And so I think we really need to look at it as a miniseries or a long movie instead of like a TV show, because I think that is going to disappoint us a little bit. But I do think it's getting better. We can never go back to the long format again. And the reason why, if you guys aren't familiar with it, is, advertising was the key to having long seasons. You wanted to keep the advertisers on, and you wanted to make sure that they were, doing each of the new, covering the entire season for the whole year. And then you would bring them on board for the next year, make sure I got still with you guys here.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah,
I get you.
So sorry, I thought I lost you for a second. So in order to keep
yourself,
I know, right? I'm like, am I just talking to myself? So in order for us they had to have long seasons because they got paid for it. Nowadays, the subscription service is like, look, we just want you to come back next month.
Right.
So we need to give you new content. We're the old, and hey, we'd come back for a year. We would get, Amazon Prime for a whole year if you give us 26, but they don't feel like they need to do that because they want you for different things. So
I paid for Stargate Command, the streaming series.
Yeah.
I religiously paid for that. I have the shirt. It was so long ago that I'm way too fat to wear it now. I literally was paying for a Stargate only streaming service, and there are at least dozens of us that would do that. I'm just saying.
I would.
Look, and you know what? If you want to give us 20 episodes, but break it up into 2 seasons, then that's fine too. I just really don't want to. I'm never going to get used to this show. You said we're getting used to it. I'm not going to get used to 10 episodes every 24 months.
Well, what hurts is it's not just 10 episodes. Yeah, that's the problem.
That's the other piece.
It's taking 2 or 3 years to come back.
Right.
That's the problem. 10 episodes, I got to wait 2 years to see it again. I used to just have to wait a summer.
Yeah, I'm big on rewatching. Yeah. I don't mind rewatching shows. A great season of a TV show, I'll rewatch it many times. But yeah, now I'm in the position where something like Foundation, so much time has passed that when the new show drops, I know I have to build in enough time to go back and basically watch the entire last season all over again because I forgot who's who and what was going on.
I have found myself being told, "Oh, you need to watch this series," and me going, "But the second season's coming out in this October. I'm just gonna wait." I've literally found myself not watching entire seasons of TV now, and telling myself, "Well, I'll just start watching that closer to the next season," because I don't want to. I hate when I watch something and then have to wait 2 or 3 years to see the conclusion of a cliffhanger they set up. It's mean. It's rude. I hate it that they do that. And Netflix is so dirty for doing that. Netflix does that a lot. And especially with their animation, which is ugh. But Amazon's a little better. Like The Boys have been pretty regular, and there is conclusions with The Boys. Again, Amazon's not making it. It's the creatives, but they hire people that have a really good way of sort of giving you a beginning, middle, and an end, but also a tease of what's coming. So it feels like there's a conclusion to it, and you can always go back and rewatch it closer. 3 years is too much time. If you're making 10 episodes, remember, the people making it now, they were used to making the network television, making 26 episodes a year. All right, well, we just want 10 episodes a year.
Every year, though.
But every year. Like every year. Like clockwork.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
I wonder if the industry is going to shift. Because, right, we've been on streaming for, I don't know, I always think of streaming. I know Netflix has had original series for many more years than anybody else. But I think of kind of the dawn of the modern streaming era would be like 2018, I think, is when Apple TV Plus went online with Jason Momoa's show C. That's we're sort of, I feel like at the end of an era, or maybe the turn of a page, where viewers are making their voices heard with their dollars. I mean, I unsubscribe from if I'm watching one show on a streaming service, as soon as I watch the last episode, I will unsubscribe. And
that's smart.
It's you almost wonder if the streamers are going to have to catch up. If they're going to have to catch up with viewer behavior and say, okay, we spent a decade doing the 10 episode thing, and it has these benefits and these drawbacks, and maybe we should try, not every show, but maybe we should try an experiment, right? More episodes that are less expensive for
what scares me,
a show like
Darren,
Stargate, right? People are coming on Prime Video and they're binging Stargate because there's 350 hours of it. Let's see if we can fill out that library with some new content that is, experiment. Let's try 18. Let's try 15. Let's try 22.
How about 12 episodes, one per month, all year round?
What scares me, that'd be great. What scares me is that they're experimenting the wrong direction. They're going, the episodes are actually getting less. Night of the Seven Kingdoms was only six episodes.
Yeah, 6 episodes.
You've got shows like Pluribus, Vince Gilligan's new show, where he did, I think it was 7 or 8 episodes, and then said, I probably won't be back for 3 years, maybe even longer. I'm like,
he literally said that. So, like, it's a normal thing.
Yeah. So I think, Darren, you're right. I think they need to experiment back. The problem is their experimentation is less episodes, more advertising. So they're increasing the prices of the streaming services by adding more advertising tiers. And when you think, wow, I just paid to have less ads, well, now I'm getting more ads. So it's like, it started out as cable. Now we're cable with advertising. And what's next? And I hope that they learn their lesson and say, look, the way to keep these people subscribed all year long, which is our ultimate goal, is to give them, an episode a month, Brian. Let them do that. Right? You'll have me all year long to watch Stargate, I promise.
Or do multiple shows, right? There was a brief window where whatever you think of the quality of Star Trek that was being put out, there were multiple things in production, and guess what? Paramount Plus, or whatever, the CBS All Access, was getting my subscription dollars more than just for the one show over the course of 10 weeks.
Yep, absolutely.
I wonder though if ads are ultimately going to strangely prove to be in our interests, because with when your numbers are just subscribers, right? I'm going to put up a new Star Trek show and try and grab these subscribers and then keep as many of them as possible after the show's over. All you're doing is your metrics are subscription numbers, right? And the churn of people unsubscribing and resubscribing later. When you've got ad dollars in there, now you've got another metric. You've got the metric of minutes watched. Yes. Being important to a Netflix or a Prime Video. And so now, hey, if you want me to watch more minutes, give me more minutes. Give me 20 episodes of Stargate.
Which is exactly what network television did. Like, that's exactly how network television works. I mean, not exactly, but that's pretty much the same model, right? So, like, if we want to go back to more episodes and more content and more, seasons over the short period of time, ads will probably be the savior of that.
Because it has to be.
Money talks.
Because when you think about it, the subscription numbers are kind of maxed. Like, when you look at, like, most people are on streaming now. So some of the older folks that aren't, their time's going to come, but you're only going to be able to balance so many subscriber numbers back and forth. So at some point, it really is going to become about the ads, because these corporations, they have to continue increasing their revenue for their shareholders. If they don't increase the revenue for their shareholders, their stock price goes down. That's not something they want to do. So they're going to have to at some point go back to. So Darren, I think you might be onto something here. Maybe the advertising will save us and we'll get back to the longer seasons, because that's the real way to make money in television. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, where do we find shows? I mean, again, the comments are every single day. The comments are, give me 26 episodes. And I feel it, and I'm there with you. But where in the universe do we find 26 episodes today? Broadcast television. That's it.
Right.
It's because it's entirely ad driven. There's no subscription model.
Watching The Rookie and High Potential, these are all network televisions that happen to also be on streaming, which is why they have so many episodes.
Yeah, we can't even go back to the way it used to be, because when Sci-Fi Channel orders a new original series, they'll order 10 episodes, and guess what? Not every year.
Right. It's true. Yeah, it's one reason I sort of wanted, like, network TV to get Stargate was for that same reason, but they would have ruined it. So I'm glad Amazon got it.
Yeah, I don't know. What was the last science fiction show that was successful on broadcast television?
A lot of hybrid science fiction shows, so it's really hard to say. Oh, on broadcast? No. On broadcast TV?
What did The Expanse start on?
Yeah, no, The Expanse was on Amazon.
No,
right? It was on Sci-Fi Channel before that.
Sci-Fi Channel. No, but there was also a Dean Devlin show that had good numbers that was on Sci-Fi a couple of years ago.
It didn't last.
It didn't last very long, but it had good numbers. Sci-Fi is hard, bro. It's expensive.
CW is what I'm thinking of the most recent, right?
That's like hybrid.
Berlanti universe is kind of hybrid.
Yeah, the Flash
genre stuff.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Legends of Tomorrow. These are sort of hybrid science fiction where, like, they're superhero, but they're also science fiction based.
But they're filming on the cheap too, So that was the other thing. They keep the cost down, production cost down. Shows like, I was so blown away by the last Martin Garrow interview you guys did, where he's talking about, like, all of the super talented people that are coming on board and how much really each episode is probably going to cost a lot of money. It kind of surprised me, so there's a lot at risk when you're doing something like that. And I don't even know how you make television cheaper for science fiction on these streaming services, because it always seems to be getting more expensive these days.
Yeah, it gets costlier.
Okay, well, let's circle back around to our lead question then. Prognosticate for me. It's January 2028. Is Stargate our last best hope, at least for streaming science fiction? Is the Star Treks of the world and the Star Wars of the world going to find their feet again and be back on the upswing, or are we going to be sort of tapping our watches waiting for Stargate to finally kind of come back and be the great hope for those of us who love watching sci-fi every week?
Stargate is going to set the tone. Yeah. See, what's going to happen is Martin and Brad and Joe and all the people that Martin brings in, they're going to be the shining light in the distance, that all of these other franchises are going to go, oh crap, that's how we should have done it when we did it. We should have remembered that the heart and soul is what's most important. And then when they bring in these new cast members and they make it cool and we love the new cast members and the old fans come in, the new fans, that's what's going to matter. And to Amazon, what they matter is, are they making money? So I think that if Stargate, and I think that the way they've set it up, they can be the last best hope. I believe that their success will be the starting point for these other franchises to turn around and have success once again.
That would be great. That would be great if
I agree.
If the show's high profile enough that it gets attention, right? If it breaks into the Nielsen top 10 streaming, and you show that this, right? Because Stargate's always been kind of a smaller franchise. It's never had the numbers of a Star Trek or a Star Wars.
I gotta tell you, I became a Nielsen family last year after years of applying and being on wait list. And I will definitely be one of the Nielsen boxes that are tuning in on a paid subscription. I promise you that.
Nice.
Right on. Any other thoughts, you guys? Chat, if you guys have any questions for these guys, let us know.
Yeah. Well, my biggest thought is that, yeah, I've been glazing a lot for Amazon and saying, like, I think this is best case scenario. But what Shane said, as far as saying the tone, I guess that's the best case scenario. So if it does well and it tracks on Nielsen, and look, it's not easy to track on Nielsen, especially Amazon shows. Like, look at all of Amazon's stuff. Even the successful stuff doesn't always track. And that's because it has to be like a phenomenon for it to track. And Amazon, well, everyone has Amazon, right? Everyone has Amazon to some degree. It's just not the same streaming service that Netflix and Disney Plus are, right? Like, there's other reasons to have an Amazon Prime account. And so if you look at the boys will often track. Reacher didn't track till the second season after it had tons of word of mouth. So I think that it does need to track on Nielsen. It needs to actually be something that is written about on websites, not just the Awesome Gate World, but on rags that are well known, like, reputable Variety, Deadline, where they are talking about the phenomenon that is this new Stargate series, the same way they talk about The Boys, Game of Thrones, etc. If we get that level of social fabric penetration, then thanks, man. It will. I was trying to make it not sound sexual, but it's hard. Stargate.
Everything's sexual out of your mouth.
Yeah, especially with Stargate. But listen, if we get that kind of penetration, then then Stargate will actually influence the way science fiction is made. Because of what happened with Game of Thrones. When Game of Thrones was super popular, when it broke records, everyone was all of a sudden, they're all making their Game of Thrones clones, right? Mm-hmm. You know why Stargate Universe exists? Because Battlestar Galactica was a social phenomenon.
Absolutely.
So if you can make a social phenomenon that everyone wants to watch, that they talk about at the quote unquote water cooler on social media, it's not political. Everyone is gathering around the same questions and love of something that's special. That sets the tone. Just like Game of Thrones set the tone. Westworld, the first season, all of a sudden everyone was like, well, where's our Westworld? Every studio is going to want to make a series that does the same thing. So Stargate has a huge burden on its shoulders. This new series, Martin Giro, bro, Martin, you're such a legend for taking this job, because you have the impossible task of pleasing millions and millions of existing Stargate fans from ages 15 to 75. Okay, you have to please them somehow. But not only that, you have to bring new people into the fold, because it's going to take more than just existing Stargate fans to really make this successful. So you have to please new old fans while bringing in new fans, and do it good enough where it becomes just as successful as shows like The Boys, Game of Thrones, etc., etc. And look, if you don't, that's okay. If you just make great Stargate, I'm cool with it. But if you really want Stargate to be something that is here in 15 years and does actually 100% set the example for things to come from other studios. Like, that's what we need. We need it to be that phenomenon. It's already going to be that phenomenon for me. But is it going to be that phenomenon for a guy named Jerry that's never seen a single episode of Stargate? I don't know. I hope so, but it seems like a very difficult task, And I'm not doubting Martin's abilities. I'm saying that's a burden, bro. That's a burden that you have to somehow make something that Stargate fans love and new people, which is probably why every time someone gets the ability to make Star Trek, what do? They go backwards. They don't want to go forwards because they can't please the old fans that way, and they're not going to get new fans that way. So they have to go backwards, and that's the safer bet. I know Martin's not going backwards, which makes it harder. But you know what? Terry Matalas did it with Star Trek Picard. He managed to please both the original audience, get new audience, and track on Nielsen. And the only reason he didn't get his Star Trek Legacy show was because the guy in charge, Kurtzman, would rather have done his Academy show that he had been trying to do for like 20 years. It was politics. But Terry can do it. I think Martin is a very talented guy, and he's surrounded by talented people. They can do that. But that's what we need. We need to pierce the social fabric.
But that's also the fear. That's the fear, though. So part of the problem, everything Brian said is so great. But the problem is, so in order to bring all of us in, okay, let's take Strange New Worlds season 1. Great example, right? Everybody who's watching Discovery is like, oh my gosh, I love Captain Pike. Captain Pike needs his own show. Cool. So Strange New Worlds comes in and everybody's watching Strange New Worlds season 1. Well, guess what? A lot of the older Star Trek fans who love Star Trek come in to watch this, and I love this show. When season 2 came around, they started changing the show because one of the things they realized is they needed more younger audience viewers. They needed more younger people. Their demographic wasn't sitting correctly. So they started to adjust and change the show to bring in this other demographic. And what ended up happening is you end up losing the older fans. Yeah. So you're right. It's a really hard line to walk. It's very difficult to be successful. What I got to say is stay true to what you want to create. Yep. Embrace the heart of what the show is. And don't pander to any group. Don't pander to the studio. Yep. Stay true to what you want to do, Martin, and it will fall into place. We believe in you. We trust you. Let's do this thing.
And not every story's for every person. You can do it, Martin. I mean, there's so much Star Trek now. Oh, I mean, not just what's been put out in the modern era, but I mean, since 1966, there's so much Star Trek in the fabric of that franchise. Stargate's got 3 shows and Infinity and Origins, and we're about to get our 4th full live action TV series. Maybe I'm cynical. You guys tell me, but I feel like you can't please everybody anymore. It's just not the case. You can try and throw your net as wide as possible. You can try to appeal to classic fans, bring on new fans. I think that the new show is going to do that. Again, I have confidence in Martin that the new show is going to do that to a degree, but you can't please everybody. Boy, read some YouTube comments if you think you can please everybody. And not every show is for everybody, right? Starfleet Academy is not made for people who grew up on the original series, I think.
Well, so you're right. I'll push back on that a little bit because I watched the first episode of Starfleet Academy and I thought, hey, this is a great start. I really like this Caleb character. It's sort of an interesting premise. The pilot was
great.
The pilot was great. Like, it was really good. I even told Shane, and he's still mad at me. Weeks later, I told Shane, because Shane was like, I'm not gonna watch Academy. I'm not putting myself through that, bro. I don't want to deal with dancing Klingons. No. And I was like, bro, the pilot is incredible. Like, it's a really good episode of Star Trek. The character, like, Caleb is a likable character. Like, you want him to succeed. The bad guy Baraka was awesome. Paul Giamatti, of course he is. And then it just sort of devolved. Like, so Starfleet Academy wasn't made for me, but it could have been made for me adjacent.
Yeah.
Like, if you would have kept the same tone of the pilot and you could have kept that going forward instead of sort of devolving into typical teen drama, you could have had your teen show and still pleased just enough fans like us. I don't need to be hyper pleased. I just need to be Star Trek enough for me to want to watch.
Okay, wait. So they had the blueprint for success.
It did.
And it was targeted. It was targeted at Nickelodeon children. So Prodigy was the success. It is the template.
Yeah, they could have made Prodigy.
It's targeted at younger generations, but captured us older ones, because you know what it had? You know what Prodigy had? It had the heart of Star Trek in it.
Yeah,
and once you have the heart of a show, you cannot go wrong. And that was made for children. So yeah, they could have had a CW version. What did somebody came out recently and said it was the CW version or whatever?
They literally hired the lady that made like 3 CW shows, and I'm not mad at her. She's a very nice person, and she's very talented at what she does. Noga Landau, but not Noga, whatever her name is. But dude, the thing is, they were doing it for 2 episodes. They actually did it where it was Star Trek enough, but it was enough for me to keep watching and be excited about the next episode. And then it just devolved, and it
changed pretty rapidly. Yeah, by episode 2, and then it keeps going 3, 4. I realized, okay, what I loved about the pilot is actually not what they want the show to be. It's not the show that they're writing. Now it comes back around. I think
they tried to come back
every time
around.
they get on the ship and go off Earth, the stakes get higher, and there's some good episodes in those 10. But
so you can do it. You can please
they
old
had a vision
fans
for what the show was. But yeah, Shane, I think you're exactly right. Prodigy is a great show because it so well captures Star Trek. And even though I'm not the target demographic for Prodigy, I loved Prodigy. One of my favorite modern Star Wars shows is Rebels.
Skeleton Key.
Rebels.
I thought you were
I'm not the target demographic for Rebels, but I watch it with my kids, and you know what? I would watch it without my kids because it's great characters, great storytelling, and it understands the world.
It does. It understands. I think that there's a way to please old fans. I think that this idea that old fans can't be pleased unless they have exactly what they used to watch when they were younger, that's just not true. We just need enough of the same writing, the same tone. We need the same. It needs to be, if it's good writing, and it's not like pandering to some very specific base or some idea or some specific generation. If you just make the show about the story, right, and you have the same tone, we will jump on board, even if it's a younger cast, even if they say things that are lingo and stuff that we don't fully understand or utilize, whatever. Like, that's not the problem. The problem is when you pander so hard to like a generation that has never watched your show and will never watch your show because you're trying to drag them into the series. That's when you lose old fans, because instead of you didn't just want to please us, you went away from us completely. You shunned us, trying to attract an audience that will never and has never watched your series. It makes no sense.
A very small minority.
Yeah, to pander your entire series to a tiny percentage of people that have never seen it, right? Like, make it about the story. Make it for everyone. And you can cast whoever you want. People will come to it if the story is your priority. Because that's what the reason I love TV is storytelling. It's not because I want to see myself on screen. Bro, Samantha Carr is my favorite all-time character. I do not identify as an attractive blonde, okay? Right? The thing is, I don't need to see myself on screen to be happy. I don't need to see my same color or gender. Dude, I like alien characters. The Asgard are some of the coolest characters ever. I obviously don't identify as Thor. But the thing is, if you give me the story, if the story is your most important concern, is how good the story is and how well the characters developed, then you will find an audience and you will make a cult following that will follow your work until the day they die, regardless of what color, age, or sexuality is in your show. It'll grow. That doesn't matter.
It'll grow on top of that. Just like Stargate did originally.
Yes, it doesn't matter. Just make a good story. The rest will follow. I believe that you can please old people just by telling a good story. Even if it's a bunch of Zoomers using lingo that we don't know, No, Cap, really? I'd be like, well, that's weird, but if the story's good, I'm cool.
Yeah, I want good characters. I want good characters that are well written and that are relatable for whatever reason that they're relatable.
Yeah. Well, relatable. Said. Yeah. Again, I do not identify as an attractive genius blonde, but it's one of my favorite all-time characters. I don't think I really see myself in any of the SG-1 characters. If anything, I'm like the guy that's in the cafeteria making the food. Okay, if I was going to be an SG, I'd probably be on the cafeteria team. I'd be like the cafeteria guy that was trying to feed citrus to Rodney McKay because he was rude to me.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I just wanted to be Tilk, so whatever, you know. And I definitely don't identify as a black alien guy, so I'm just telling you. It's okay. I wanted to be him so bad.
Well, but they're
Alien
characters
badass.
to look up to, right? They're characters that we
Yes.
recognize their
Inspires.
ethics, their heart, their values, and those things resonate with us. Haley Anjuna in the chat says, "I wonder what will become of the ship with the entire Asgard legacy in it." So let's talk about this for a second. These breadcrumbs that were left off in the original shows. We've talked a little bit about, okay, I want to know what happened to Destiny's crew. I want to know if Atlantis is still parked in San Francisco Bay. But what about where the show picks up now, 15 to 20 years later? Do we still have Odyssey with the Asgard core in it? And have we spent 20 years exploiting alien technology and now Earth is sort of super advanced?
Can I be honest? I think that there should be a reason we didn't. That sounds weird, but there should be a reason that we didn't get access to very much more of that core. In that it was great that we could have, but something happened, and I know this is cheating, but if we go into a series where we have access to all this Asgard technology, it's gonna make things very difficult to write. And so it would almost be better if the core got fried and we're trying to piece together over long periods of time bits and pieces, and we can use that as sort of a thread we can pull on in the future. But if we actually tapped the power of the ultimate power of the Asgard, then there would be no story. Like
that has to stay within reach. That has to stay just out of our reach, I think, a little bit, because especially new audiences, they're going to have to get reintroduced kind of to the whole technology of Stargate anyways. So I think you're going to have to kind of wheel them in slowly and maybe refer to that on some level, because of course we all want the Asgard technology. So
we can't be able to make ZPMs willy-nilly. It still needs to be something that is just out of reach. Maybe a little closer, maybe a little less effort, but it just can't be something where, we just popped over to Pegasus real quick to hang out with Shepard and eat a cheeseburger, watch football, and just popped right back over to. No, there needs to be restrictions.
Yeah.
I've always said this. Superman is a very hard character to write for because he is a lowercase god, right? He can do anything. And the original version of Superman, we made this documentary if you guys want to watch on our channel. Like, he was like literally like be able to pull planets like out of alignment. The guy had no limitations to his abilities. Whenever I see those polls online, who could beat Superman? Homelander or Superman? Please. Superman can just look in the general direction of Homelander and the guy just says pink mist. Superman held a black hole in his hands. The guy is so incredible overpowered that it's really, the way they write stories for him is not based on his abilities, but based on his humanity. That's the only way you can write for him. So now you see new Superman has been depowered over the last few decades, where they are slowly introducing limitations to his abilities, because it's very difficult to write for a character that has the almost omnipotent abilities of the old Golden Age Superman. So humans cannot be so powerful that nothing can bother us. And I don't want to get so powerful that all of a sudden it becomes Foundation, where it's about the politics and all that. There needs to be an antagonist. There needs to be drama and action. There needs to be classic elements of a hero story, which means the hero can't be Superman. And with an Asgard core, we're basically all Superman.
The hero can't be an Asgard, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we need some kind of setback. It's got to be out of reach. You can't just stamp out ZPMs anytime you have a power crisis.
Right, bro.
Sci-Fi Chronicle 79 asks or says, "I do think the Asgard will be back. They are a clone species, so it can be done. And the Veneer, the evil Pegasus Asgard, are out there. I think this is entirely possible." Don't quote me on this, but I feel like one of the producers at some point over the last million years has said that there were intentions to bring the Asgard back in some way, shape, or form.
I hope they're still animatronic. That'd be awesome.
I wonder if that's part of the show. Yeah, and do you do them all CG or do you get puppets?
So we watched.
I hope they do puppets, please.
I know I've plugged this a couple of times, but on Sci-Fi Chronicles 79 on YouTube every Sunday, so this coming Sunday, we watch Stargate. And 2 weeks ago, we watched the episode where we went to the original Ghoul homeworld where they have the Unas, and the makeup for the Unas was so good.
Yeah.
Like his whole body, like it was this what happened in the late 90s, and it was like better than anything I've seen modern. Like he looked like an alien from his toes to his fingertips. Every part of it was alien. He could emote through the prosthetics. It was so well done. You cannot do that with AI or CGI or VFX. It just doesn't look right. It's uncanny. But that character, I could not get enough of how good the makeup prosthetics are.
One of the reasons the show holds up so well.
It does. Yeah, because look at Doctor Who, which we talked about once on the channel. Doctor Who just doesn't hold up graphically because they were trying to use a VFX instead of makeup. I really, really like that real world physical craftsmanship. And I know it's expensive, but that's why it holds up. And that's why if we did it that way in 30 years, there'll be a couple, 3 other 45, 50-year-old dudes talking about Stargate that comes out in a couple of years on how it holds up. And that's only going to happen if they rely on physical graphics versus like what Dean Devlin did with the Ark, where it was looked like PlayStation graphics. It doesn't hold up.
Well, and if you want to look at something current, just take a look at Project Hail Mary, where Rocky was a puppet. So they puppeteered him. It looks very realistic. It looks great. We could do something like that with characters on Stargate as well.
Yeah, those always that kind of character work is what makes it go. Takes a show or a movie from being, well, that's obviously a movie made in that current year, to that movie is timeless. The kind of character work that Weta does and other ILM stuff does, it makes it a timeless piece of storytelling. And SG1 is that way. And there's some bad graphics in SG1, but like most of it is pretty damn good.
Well, you mentioned Doctor Who. I'm thinking of like the season 1 of the modern Doctor Who when they did the Slitheen, those big fat big eye aliens. That doesn't hold up all that well in 2026, but you know what? Farscape, pretty much anything that the Jim Henson Company did on Farscape, beautiful.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's
Jim
beautiful
Henson stuff holds up.
Oh yeah, Farscape is one of those shows that, like, even if I'm not a fan of the storytelling all the time in that show, like the character work was just so great. And it's hard not to admire every bit of craftsmanship that went into every one of those episodes. It's just so good.
Yeah. Guys, we're hanging out with the Popcast guys, Brian and Shane here. If you got any questions for these guys before we wrap up, drop them in the comments at gateworld.net if you want to make sure that I see it. Otherwise, what else is going on with you guys these days? What other you told us about what you're working on for Popcast in the upcoming Stargate movie video. Other than that work and the work that you're doing with Mixed Teas, what are you guys what are you watching these days? What are you loving these days?
I mean, I'm watching The Rookie because Nathan Fillion's in it. I know it's not science fiction, but
he's no Jensen Ackles.
He's no Jensen Ackles, but listen, Nathan Fillion, I would watch Nathan Fillion do anything. Like if you said there's a series where he just sits there and reads through his contacts on his phones, I'd be like, I'll watch it. He's entertaining. I'm also looking forward to The Boys coming up. A lot of new TV is too R-rated, and I'm not like a pearl clutcher. I'm not someone who usually cares about that, but like I have teenage kids and I would like to be able to watch a series with them or a movie. And nowadays, the best TV and movies have too much nudity, too much cursing, too much over sexualization, Just a lot of everything sexual. And I can't watch that with 2 daughters. So I'm having to go backwards and find series that I know that they haven't seen that they may like and watch it with them. Like I can't watch The Boys with my kids, right? But I'm watching, like, we watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is great. You should, if you haven't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's sort of like Stargate and Stargate rolled into one spy agency. It's great, great series. And we're watching like Dark Matter, Joe Malazzi's Dark Matter. That's
such
a
an
great
underrated series.
It's fun. So I actually got my kid into watching The Rookie, and so she liked the character that I think her name's Melissa. Anyways, one of the characters in The Rookie is also the lead in Dark
she
Matter.
plays one.
Right. So I was able to get her to get invested in The Rookie, and then when we were starting to run out of that, I moved her over to science fiction. The way I get my kids into watch something, I get them into something that they will like, and then like tangentially move them over to science fiction because I'm trying to create science fiction fans. And so I did that with Dark Matter, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. My kid was a Marvel fan, so I got to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which very much is science fiction, not really comic book stuff. So yeah, we're doing Dark Matter right now. A lot of stuff on Disney Plus. Disney Plus is one of those streaming services that just sort of has everything. I don't necessarily believe in the Disney moniker, but the actual service is bang for your buck. It's probably the best service for a family out there. And they have a little bit of everything if you have like the Hulu network. So yeah, I love science fiction, huge fan, but sometimes there's not a lot of science fiction I can watch, and especially not I can watch with my kids.
Yeah. My kids we're enjoying Percy Jackson on Disney Plus because they're book readers and they're old enough that they're interested in watching how the story is adapted to a different medium.
Yeah. Yeah,
well done on getting them to be book readers. Well done.
The new Scrubs was something we were watching. But as far as you want to talk about a throwback, this Sunday we're scheduled to watch Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which is going to be awesome. Which I'm pretty sure is like someone watched Stargate SG-1 and was like, let's make that into a movie.
Seems pretty Stargate adjacent, yeah.
That guy is pretty much Daniel Jackson. And I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be good. Yeah, so that's one thing about this. The new TV that drives me nuts is that it's over sexualized, and I just can't watch it with my kids. There's too much. Everything has to be like something sexual or romantic, and I just sort of miss having a TV show that didn't care about that stuff all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So I find myself going
like
back
I
a
have
lot.
to kind of, pre-watch before I decide if my kids are ready for it.
Which makes it less enjoyable as the parent that you had to like pre-watch to make sure. Which is another reason why I keep going backwards to stuff I know is okay. Because it sucks that I have to watch like every movie twice. I want to watch a movie with my kids, but I want to make sure there's nothing horrible in it that's going to scar them for life. And then I have to watch it a second time if it was good. And I'm like, now I'm sitting there bored and falling asleep, you know?
Yeah. The problem with a lot of the new stuff is that it's over so quickly. So once, we finished The Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which was fantastic. I think just really wonderful. Even if you're not a huge Game of Thrones fans, if you love honor and character, that's like an incredible show. But that, got me and my wife into like, okay, well, I've only read the books for Game of Thrones. I never watched the TV series. So we actually went back and rewatched the entire TV series. Now we're on House of the Dragon. So we're just kind of enveloped into that. We're actually, I never finished Supernatural. So me and my wife are watching Supernatural. So we've gone back to, I've killed all the new shows. I've seen them all. Right. I love Severance. I love Silo. I love a lot of the Apple TV stuff.
Yeah.
But Silo. Now we're going back and revisiting the old stuff. Yeah.
It's a great show.
Anything sci-fi. So we're kind of doing those rewatches now because there's not a lot of. I mean, if you want to watch Paradise season 2, that's out, which is kind of cool. Dystopian.
It's weird. Paradise season 1, awesome. Paradise season 2,
yeah,
meh.
Yeah. Because they unlocked what it is, the secret. Right. Now it's like, how do you carry that story? That's tough to do season 2 there.
Yeah, and it took a long time to come out. Had it come out like.
Yep.
8 months later, 10 months later, it would have been more interesting. But like, it took a long time.
Lockwatcher says some of the older shows, if you've not seen them, are great. Columbo is the bomb.
Oh, I loved Columbo.
There's a deep cut. I mean, yeah, let's go back and watch stuff from the 70s or the 80s.
I like the Columbo
Rockford
with Kate
Files.
Mulgrew. Kate Mulgrew's Columbo was my favorite.
Rockford
Mrs.
Files,
Columbo.
Perry Mason.
Mrs. Columbo.
Yeah. Or as an 80s kid, right? For us, it was Knight Rider and Airwolf.
Yes, Airwolf. Oh my God, I loved Airwolf. It was fantastic. Ernest Borgnine. Yeah.
And MacGyver, of course, MacGyver.
Yeah, you know what? The new the new series of MacGyver, at least the first few seasons is actually pretty good. Now it's not as charming as the original, but like it's pretty good. Like the storytelling is pretty good, and that definitely fits the MacGyver. Like if you like MacGyver, then you'll probably like the new MacGyver. I guess it's not new anymore, but like
casting counts though. You know, RDA is special, and
yeah,
so
that's
like...
true. But Terry Matalla's got to work on that, and he brought in 7 and 9. I'm forgetting her name right now all of a sudden.
Jerry Ryan
to play basically MacGyver's aunt, and dude, it played, and Jerry Ryan did a great job because like you thought one way, you sort of went another way, and she killed it. And it's like if you want a show that hits the 90s feels, that's probably a good one. And if you haven't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I can't say it's enough. Watch it. First season sucks, in my opinion.
It took a while to get there, but I like that show. Yeah, and it gets more sci-fi as it goes.
Season, it gets more and more sci-fi. There's literally an entire season where they're basically in the Matrix. Like, doesn't get more sci-fi than that, guys. Like they fly through space.
Suns and Shadows is speaking my love language here. What about Street Hawk?
Oh my gosh,
that's a deep cut. The Man, the Machine.
I was never a Street Hawk guy. I was never
on a motorcycle. That was a good show. Hellcats wants to know when that Stargate video is coming out. Are you ready to commit here live on national YouTube,
bro?
That this is done next week?
How dare you? How dare you?
I'm just repeating what's in the chat.
That's true. So, guys, I am about 2/3 done with it. I literally, as of last night, I finally got to the remaining audio that Shane sent me over. And
you want a date, bro?
I believe, and I'm gonna like soft commit to next weekend.
Ooh, okay. Let's do it next Friday.
Because guys, I am really close to like, have you ever worked on a project where you're just trying to hit that stride point where everything just sort of falls into place and all the stuff you worked on previously on the timeline, you can utilize those exact same files again, and you can sort of massage that music in and those template files on those project files.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
If you ever edited, there's an inflection point, like a tipping point, where when you're working on something,
the flow state, yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard. Then when you get to this flow state where all of a sudden everything just sort of clicks, I'm really close to that state. And listen, I was actually at that state this morning before my wife woke me up because she has spring break off because she works at a school. Guess what? She goes back to work next week, which means my flow state's about to go on a hyperdrive. Because when my wife is home, I can't really do anything during the day. Everything has to be done at night and mess up my sleep cycle. So I believe I will soft commit to next weekend, probably Friday morning, Saturday morning release.
Yeah. And to be fair, I held it for 3 months. So it took 3 months to build it. So to write it, to research it. So asking Brian to do it quickly, I'm laughing because it's actually on me.
So I was working on it during that time he was doing it, but I wasn't working on like the main timeline. I was doing like motion graphics and music and all this sort of stuff that I can take time with because I know he's going to take a long time writing. And now I'm like, I can't work on any of those elements anymore. I can't be making more composites of music. I have to now just create the actual document. And I really don't create the physical, like the full timeline until I have everything. While he's writing, I'm usually just doing all the little elements, which, to be fair, I told Shane this last week, they look great. And I'm not saying that as like, oh, I'm so good at this. But guys, we've made a lot of documentaries, and every doc, and Shane can tell you this, every single doc that we work on, every video, I'm like, it's okay. Like I always say the same thing. Like it could be better. I could have done that better.
Except
because every video is a learning experience.
Right. The only video we've ever worked on where we're like, this is great, was the Goonies documentary, right? And to be fair, it took a long time to make that one. But we finally we're like, yo, this is awesome. We love this. Like this is what I'm gonna put as a channel trailer. This one is one of those things where everything I've finally created, even if it took me a long time to get there, I'm like, oh, that's sick. Oh, that's great. Oh, that flows right. That sounds good. That's exciting. That's emotional, and like just fits. And I'm in that same state with this one. Good. So unlike when we did the Dune one, I was like, I did not like this. I'm telling you, like, not a fan of this documentary. Not a fan.
Yeah, this will be great. We found the exact spot where they filmed in the Yuma Desert, right? It was like unbelievable that it was not actually specifically described where it was, and we found it. So there's a lot of fun stuff that are going to be in this documentary.
And I got actual drone footage.
You literally drove out there.
No. We didn't drive out there. I would have done that.
But I did get drone footage from a guy that sells drone footage online of that exact area.
Nice.
Of the area.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
cool. So I got actual drone footage. And so you'll see when we're talking about that, at the modern day drone footage in like 4K, and it's sort of, it starts to merge into like more behind the scenes stuff that we got from some of the discs, the special edition of like the 20th year anniversary one, all that. So I'm able to actually show you in real time what it looks like now versus what it looks like then. It's pretty. I think it worked out great.
I'm excited for this one.
When Daddy Abydos guy is running down the sand dune, I have that exact shot, and it literally, when he comes up over that sand dune, my shot merges with his shot. It's almost seamless the way he comes down. So I take like something that's 8 seconds in the movie and I make it like 20 seconds in the doc. It's pretty cool.
Cool. I'm excited to see it. And yeah, I feel your pain and your editing experience. As a guy who does the whole thing from start to finish on my videos, I can write something and record it, and then it'll sit on my hard drive forever. And I'll look for that flow state, right? I'm working on a replicator video right now that's probably going to end up about 8 minutes. And I could sit down and do this in a day if I was really dedicated and devoted and was needing to get it out. It's not very long. It's not very complicated. I have a bunch of footage already. But then here's another idea. I could also take a nap. And that would also be good. So the video's not done yet. I can't hit the
flow state. That creative flow state is really hard to get into, man.
Love
Guys,
that.
Thanks so much for being here. This was a blast to talk about Stargate and science fiction and what you're doing. Would you tell the people where they can find you on the YouTubes?
The Popcast Brothers, and this Sunday I will be on Sci-Fi Chronicles 79 watching Stargate.
Excellent.
Pitching other people's stuff.
I'm plugging away. I want more people to come watch Stargate with us. It's
Sorry,
more
Darren.
fun that way.
Good. Go and watch it. No, there's lots of great rewatches on YouTube. Our friends at Suns and Shadows do a rewatch every week as well. I was on last week.
Awesome.
Yeah, go and check them out. There's a link to the Popcast here on YouTube in the video description if you want to check them out, or just search for Popcast here on YouTube and you can find it. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Shane.
P-O-P-C-A-S-T, not podcast. Popcast.
Yeah,
we didn't think that one through.
Yeah, that was a really bad name for YouTube. In hindsight, we should not have made the name Popcast. It's confusing. Our own father still thinks we're the Podcast Brothers.
You can't do a Popcast podcast and make people just say that every time.
It's so confusing.
Big thanks to Brennan for giving us $2 earlier. Top tier hard sci-fi book is Ship of Fools by Russo. Brennan the Smith, thanks for that. And another $10 from Brennan the Smith. Any advice for a beginning filmmaker? Right now I'm working on black and white Lovecraft Western short with 8mm, but I'm so lost where to start filming. I've got the plot overall, but I'm curious. You guys have any filmmaking background? You've got any advice for Brennan?
Well, when I was in film school for about 6 months before I figured out that everyone wanted to be a filmmaker and I wasn't going to make any money doing that.
Yeah.
So I moved over to computer graphics. But you know what would be cool? The second you said black and white Lovecraftian, the very first thing I thought of was like filming the entire thing with like in a miniature environment, but shoot it miniature, but treat it like it's macro. Get it? So shoot it mini but edit it and treat it like it's a macro environment. That would be a really cool way to do black and white Lovecraft stuff. Like a spaghetti Western Lovecraft story, but everything is in a miniature, and it would probably be way cheaper. You could do it like in your backyard. You could just, like, you want a desert environment? You want a swamp environment? You want just concrete environment? You can just everything in miniature, but then edit it and throw like one of those macro filters on it where like the lens is a little distorted, so it looks like a spaghetti Western. That would actually be really cool. That's my
I can't
interesting visuals.
I can't say much about the making it, but I can tell you that if you got a great script, you're going to do well. So you want to tell a good story, and you
see, that's the difference. Shane tells a story and I do the visuals, so you can tell the difference between us right now.
I do narrate it though, so that's the fun.
And he narrates it too.
Yeah, and you guys work great together. It's just like YouTube, I would say, we learn something and get a little bit better every time we do a project. It's got to be the same for young up and coming filmmakers. To just do stuff, try stuff out, experiment, learn, fall on your face and learn from it and try something different next time.
Well said.
Yep, I agree with that.
Thank you guys. Thanks for being here. Hopefully we can do it again. Maybe when the show gets a little closer and we know a little bit more about it, we can talk more concrete about what Martin Garrow's new Stargate show is going to be. Big thanks to our chat mods who have been here with us for the last couple hours. Raj Luthra is here. Jeff at Suns and Shadows. Hellcats is here. Lockwatchers in the chat. Anybody else, if I missed you, I apologize, but thanks for being here. Thanks to channel members. Guys, being a Gate World channel member is a big blessing to me. It helps me to be able to kind of kick out the stuff that you like to see, do live streams like this instead of working on my day job. And those deep dive lore videos, some of the behind the scenes production stuff, like the documentary that I did last year, take a lot of work. Right, these guys can attest. It takes months to do stuff like that, and then the deep dive Stargate lore videos also take quite a lot of work. So I'm super thankful for all of our channel members, whatever tier you want to join out. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can get your name in some video credits and emojis here in chat, other little things like that. Just look for the join button below any Gate World video on a desktop browser. I haven't found it on mobile. I suspect that joining is hard to do on mobile because if you do it on an iPhone, Apple wants to take a cut. That's my speculation.
Yeah.
But, yeah, everybody, thanks for being here with us live. Thanks to Brian and Shane.
Thanks for having us, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming up, we're going to stream most Fridays here in April. Here on the 3rd, we did Popcast Bros. And next week, we're going to have Alyssa and Emily from the Stargate Fandom podcast and have another conversation about Stargate. The topic is still in the works for this one, but it's going to be a fun opportunity to, again, bring on a couple of Stargate fans, talk about what they're doing in their podcast space, what it is that they love, how they come to the shows, what they appreciate about Stargate. We'll have another fun chat. April the 17th, I'm taking off. That's my vacation this month. But then come back. We'll do more Stargate chat on Friday, April the 24th, with Charles Bugi. Charlie is one of our new video editors for Gate World, who's been working on some stuff behind the scenes for us. And he's a big Stargate fan. He's excited to talk about Stargate Gate Cruise coming up. Excited to talk about RPG, Stargate role-playing. We should have a lot of fun with that. I think that's everything. I think I remembered everything. It's the end of the week.
That reminds me of the Stargate video game.
Say again?
The demo for. Remember that Stargate video game? It was an MMORPG. I got the demo for it, and I could never get out of the first base.
Stargate Worlds?
And then they canceled the whole project because Firefly, the studio, misused it. Oh, man, I really wish it would have happened. Yeah. That's another documentary we should talk about one day.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I interrupt you.
If you guys want to do video game stuff, hey, that is a story. There's a lot
That's
out
a huge story. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a story to tell. We've been talking about what we might do again in terms of kind of documenting the franchise, documenting the history of the Stargate franchise as we are living through it, which is what Gate World and also Dial the Gate have kind of evolved into, is documenting the history of Stargate's production. But thank you guys for your work. I'm going to be excited to see the video on Stargate movie next week or when it arrives. Fingers crossed. Thanks everybody for being here. We'll see you
guys
next week.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks for having us.